Good afternoon, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are going to bring you some live coverage. JD Vance filling in for the White House press secretary today. She is on maternity leave. So we'll get to see JD Vance, Vice President Vance, giving a White House press briefing. So we're going to watch that. Hey, I have a quick question. Are people getting YouTube notifications? Because I don't seem to be getting YouTube notifications for my own channel lately. I didn't get one today. I have to check in on that. So I normally get, people are saying yes. They're saying yes, I got them. Most people are saying yes. I get them through email and I'm not getting them. If you don't get one, could you please, it would be great if you could just click on send feedback and just say, hey, I'm not getting notifications for Agenda Free TV. I'm signed up for them. Takes about 10 seconds to do that. That would be helpful because if you're not getting them, if you could message them and just click on send feedback and say, I'm not getting them for this channel, that would be helpful. A lot of people are getting them. Anyways, the best notifications, I would sign up for our Discord notifications, whatever platform you're on. Sign up for our Discord notifications. The mods will post the link in the chat. It's also in the show description. It's our own notification system. That works the best and it's free. All right. Anyways, let's get into this. Hey, I appreciate, again, I think there might be some issues, but please let them know if you're not. So we're going to have JD Vance giving a press briefing at the White House. We're also going to show you before President Trump did an appearance at the ballroom construction site. So we're going to show you some of that before it starts. Also, what was I going to say? Tonight we're going to have live coverage of the Thomas Massie primary. Thomas Massie, Kentucky primary. He is a Republican representative who President Trump really wants him to lose. President Trump has endorsed against Thomas Massie. So we're going to see tonight if Thomas Massie wins his Kentucky House primary or not. And, you know, the polls, I think, is it some close at 6 and some close at 7 Eastern time? $6 p.m. It's 6 Eastern. Oh. You know what? It's not 6 Eastern. Because Kentucky has 2 time zones. So it'll be some close at 6 and some close at 7 Eastern. They all close at 6, but some parts of Kentucky are in Central Time. Anyways, we'll have coverage of that tonight. So hopefully you can join us for that. Yeah, 6, 7, exactly. We will have coverage of that tonight. And we'll probably talk about some of the other races too. But we'll definitely be covering the Massie race. So I hope you can join us for that. And thanks for being here. We have Leslie Ladyhawk, who is moderating right now. Thank you. Thank you to all of our moderators. Leslie Ladyhawk is moderating. Thank you. We also have moderating... I Got That Fire and Certainly Dev are moderating. Thank you for moderating over there. And yeah, we're going to be busy today. Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. Mr. Syfex mentions an Oregon primary tonight. I'll have to read up. Lou says, thoughts about Trump's final warning to Iran today? Lou, I haven't kept up exactly what President Trump has said, but I mean, there have been numerous warnings given to Iran by Trump and numerous deadlines. At this point, my attitude towards all these stories about deadlines, that there's going to be an attack, that there's going to be a deal, pretty much my attitude is just, I'll wait until something actually happens. Because there's been so many deadlines and warnings and stories about a deal and stories about an attack. And all I know is since April 8th, there's been a ceasefire. Basically. So I'm not really hanging on every word of everybody in every article about this at this point. And I certainly don't see anything reported or said lately that makes me think one thing or another is more likely. I compare it to the situation when there was a time in the Gaza war. There was a time in the Gaza war where for months and months, there were just endless stories about how, oh, we're close to a ceasefire, we're close to a deal. And at a certain point, it was like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to this anymore until actually something happens. And eventually there was a ceasefire. But, you know, it just, at a certain point, it gets to this point where it's just like, what's going to happen is going to happen. Now, I can imagine a world in which there's more evidence that something's going to happen. But at this point, you know, who knows? But Lou, if there's big developments, we'll cover it. Thank you so much, Lou1210L. I'm going to try to play some of the Trump's appearance today on this broadcast, so you can maybe we can see what he said. Thank you, Lou. I appreciate it. Also, Sharon Goslin, our member, and Debbie James. I don't even think I thanked all the moderators. Thanks, Debbie, for moderating. I got that fire in Surly Dev. Thank you for moderating. Sarah's moderating. And also Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha over on X. Thanks to our Facebook mods. We have moderating right now. Oops, I'm hearing myself twice. Kay Lowry Body's modding. Thanks, Kay. Thanks, Dolly Clark, for being a member. Diane Allworth, thanks for being a member. By the way, also thanks to Gonzalez for the gift sub on Twitch, and Kata F for subscribing on Twitch, and Sleeping Kisa for subscribing on Twitch. Thank you. By the way, so I'm in Boston. It is 91 degrees here right now. It's 91. And so before we came on the air, like the power in the city went off for like a second. Not in my place, in the city, in my area in the city. So this was not me exclusive. Once in a while, usually we get a couple crazy hot days a year here. I mean, it can be hot in the summer, but once in a while we get some like really, really hot days. And once in a while we can get these power blips. So hopefully there's no issue with the power. But if you're watching and the broadcast suddenly stops, it's probably because there was a power blip and I'd have to restart the broadcast. Let's hope that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen all the time. Usually it might happen once. And it already happened once today. So hopefully, but it's supposed to be possibly a record high today, actually. Possibly a record. I don't have a backup power plant here on my own. Okay, we're going to take some comments from you guys. Let's see here. Gonzalez says the data centers are sucking up the power around. I don't know if that's happening around here, but anyways, hopefully it does not happen. Hold on a second here. Let's see here. Give me one moment. Give me one moment here. Again, JD Vance is doing the press briefing because Karoline Leavitt is on maternity leave. Now, what I need to do is pull up here. Oh, sorry. Trump reposted on his True Social. He didn't post this newly. Somebody said he just posted. He didn't post newly, but he reposted today 4 posts about Thomas Massie. These are reposts. He has 4 of them on his account. Thomas Massie of Kentucky, the worst and most unreliable Republican congressman in the history of our country, is an even bigger insult to our nation than Senator Cassidy of Louisiana, who suffered an unprecedented loss. This post is from a couple days ago. By not even being allowed to run in the Republican primary, this is the first time such a thing has ever happened to a sitting U.S. senator. That's what you get by voting to impeach an innocent man, especially one who made it possible for Cassidy's Senate win. Very disloyal, but Tom Massie, a major sleazebag, is even worse. Kentucky, get this loser out of politics. In Tuesday's election, he is nicknamed Rand Paul Jr., another real beauty, because of his absolutely terrible voting habits. Vote for Ed Galrein, a successful Kentucky farmer, an American war hero who only ran because he thought that Massie was so disloyal and disrespectful to your president, me. This is a great man, central casting, in fact, who truly deserves to represent the fantastic people of Kentucky, a commonwealth that I am proud to have won all 3 times in record fashion. Ed will never let you down. So he's reposted 4 of these. Then the next thing is, bad Congressman Tom Massie voted against tax cuts, the border wall, our military and law enforcement. Actually, he voted against almost everything that is good. The worst Republican congressman in history, he says. Kentucky, vote the bum out on Tuesday. We can't live with this troublemaker another 2 years. He is a true negative force. Trump, then he also retruthed. The worst congressman in the long and storied history of the Republican Party is Thomas Massie. He is obstructionist and a fool. Vote him out of office Tuesday. It will be a great day for America. And he also retruthed. Third-rate Congressman Thomas Massie, a weak and pathetic rhino from the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, a place I love and won 6 times, including all primaries, must be thrown out of office ASAP. He is the worst Republican congressman in history, voting against tax cuts, the wall, law enforcement, and in favor of the transgender mutilization of our children, men playing in women's sports, and so many horrible things. The incredible people of Kentucky's 4th Congressional District gave us a mandate to make America great again, and the person that will help us do that is Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, and 5th-generation Kentucky farmer, Captain Ed Galrein. It's Galrein, I think. Ed Galrein, a true America First patriot, a brave combat veteran. Ed knows the wisdom and courage required to defend our country, support our military veterans, and ensure peace through strength. Additionally, as a very great, successful businessman, Ed knows how to create great jobs, cut taxes and regulations, promote Made in the USA, support our amazing farmers and amazing American agriculture. Okay, you can read the rest of that on Truth Social. The great people of Kentucky are wise to Massie. He only votes against the Republican Party, making life very easy for the radical left. Unlike lightweight Massie, a totally ineffective loser who has failed us so badly, Captain Ed Galrein is a winner who will not let you down. Election day is Tuesday. Vote for Ed Galrein. He has my complete and total endorsement. Make America great again. Okay, so President Trump has reposted those 4 posts on his True Social about Thomas Massie. We will be covering the Thomas Massie primary tonight. We will be covering the Thomas Massie primary tonight, but you can see President Trump has reposted 4 times. One of the viewers said he's going off, Trump. Yeah, a lot of reposts, a lot of retruths. Retruths. Donna Simmons says nothing is going to happen while Putin is in China. I think President Trump said today something like he's going to wait a few days on Iran. But again, I'm not hanging on every word, but I if you take him at his word, I don't think Putin's supposed to be in China for too long. I don't know if that would make a difference, but that's what Donna thinks. Hey, thanks Donna Simmons for writing in. I appreciate it. Donna Simmons. All right, so we want to take some of your comments on the air. Again, we have JD Vance is giving the White House press briefing today. He is giving it. Why is he giving it? Because Karoline Leavitt is on maternity leave. Marco Rubio did a press briefing, I think a few weeks ago. So today, JD Vance leads the press briefing. How about that? G2HO says about time he did something? Maybe it's sort of, when Rubio gave it, some people were saying, hey, maybe he's making a favorable impression on people to perhaps run for president in 2028. So maybe JD Vance sees this as a way to, speak, to make an appearance in front of 2028 voters. J.K. Senar thinks that JD and Marco are auditioning for the next presidential primary. So obviously JD Vance is going to be asked about Iran, and a bunch of things he'll be asked about, maybe Cuba, a little summary of what Trump said today. I'd like to play some of his appearance, but you can see here from this Reuters article. Trump today said he had paused a planned resumption of hostilities following a new proposal by Tehran to end the war. I have no idea if it's true that that's what actually happened. He said, I was an hour away from making the decision to go today. He said Iran's leaders are begging for a deal. He said a new U.S. attack would happen in coming days if no agreement was reached. He said, I'm saying 2 or 3 days, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something, maybe early next week, a limited period of time, because we can't let them have a new nuclear weapon. In Tehran, the head of the Iranian Parliament's National Security Committee said on X that pausing an attack was due to Trump's realization that any move against Iran would mean facing a decisive military response. Anyways, I want to try to play some of what Trump said before the briefing. We'll do that. We'll do that in a couple minutes, because I think you guys would be interested in that. And, one other story we should mention that I'm guessing Trump will be asked about, or that JD Vance will be asked about, is this fund. So long story short, President Trump sued the IRS, which is in the executive branch, for I think $10 billion over years ago, I believe, his tax returns being leaked. And then President Trump dropped the lawsuit and settled with the IRS. And the settlement says there's going to be a roughly $1.8 billion fund that can be used to pay people who claim that they were unfairly targeted by the U.S. Justice Department. This is going to be asked about in the briefing, I'm sure. Hang on, real quick, I'll just mention this here. So just to give you a brief, if you're not aware of the story, Trump drops IRS lawsuit in exchange for DOJ $1.8 billion weaponization fund. And again, some critics say, well, he was basically suing himself. He was both sides of the lawsuit because the IRS is in the executive branch. President Trump's administration yesterday created a nearly $1.8 billion fund, and that would be taxpayer money, to compensate victims of political, quote, weaponization, to settle a lawsuit Trump had filed against his own government over the alleged mishandling of his tax records. The agreement resolves an unprecedented lawsuit filed by Trump in which he sought $10 billion from the IRS, arguing it should have done more to prevent a former contractor from leaking his tax records to the media. Trump will receive an apology but no financial payment. Instead, the Justice Department will set up a pool of money controlled by his allies. Trump can, there's a 5-member commission who is appointed by the Attorney General, and Trump can fire anybody on the commission that he wants. That can dole out payments to those who claim to have suffered weaponization or lawfare by the U.S. government. Those terms are frequently used by Trump and his allies to describe the criminal cases against them, including those arising from the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6. Trump's lawsuit and the resulting settlement has been widely criticized as an attempt to direct taxpayer money to his own purposes, says Reuters. Democrat Jamie Raskin says, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee said this case is nothing but a racket designed to take $1.7 billion of taxpayer dollars out of the Treasury and pour it into a huge slush fund. The Justice Department said there are no partisan requirements to file a claim with the Anti-Weaponization Fund. Todd Blanche, the acting Attorney General, who formerly served as Trump's personal defense attorney, says it is this department's intention to make right the wrongs that were previously done while ensuring this never happens again. Federal prosecutors who worked on cases against Trump and his political allies repeatedly rejected claims that the cases were politically motivated or an abuse of the legal system. Legal experts described the arrangement as highly unusual, both because of the nature of Trump's lawsuit against the IRS and because funds of this scale typically are either created by an act of Congress or supervised by a court. Rupa Bhattacharya, a former Justice Department lawyer who oversaw a fund for victims of the September 11th attacks, said this is completely unprecedented for a variety of reasons. For taxpayer money to be given to the executive branch to dole out in a way with such little restriction, he says, or no, it might be a she. I think it's a she. Rupa says this just lends itself to abuse and corruption. The fund could trigger a new legal fight over whether it usurps Congress's power to decide how U.S. taxpayer money is spent. So we'll have to see if a court might rule, maybe it'll go to the Supreme Court, that this fund is unconstitutional. And anyways, that I am sure will come up. Someone will ask about that during the press briefing, I'm sure, because this just came out yesterday. By the way, and just background, Trump's lawsuit against the IRS arose from a former IRS contractor, Charles Littlejohn, his leak of Trump's tax returns to media outlets, including the New York Times and ProPublica in 2019 and 2020. Littlejohn himself was later convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison. The lawsuit by Trump against the IRS raised novel legal questions, including conflicts of interest about whether a president can sue his own government. It says at the bottom here, the district court judge overseeing Trump's lawsuit wrote last month it was unclear whether the parties to the lawsuit were truly antagonistic to each other. Anyways, there might be a little summary here of this, but I'm mentioning it because I do think it's going to be asked about in this briefing today. There might be a couple questions about it in the briefing today that JD Vance has given. Here, real quick, here's a little video that goes along with that article from Reuters. Then I'll take some of your comments on the air. Hold on. Here, right here.
U.S. President Donald Trump's administration on Monday created a nearly $1.8 billion fund to compensate victims of political, quote, weaponization. The move is part of an agreement that settles a lawsuit filed by Trump in which he sought $10 billion from the Internal Revenue Service over the alleged mishandling of his tax records. Trump will receive an apology, but no financial payments. Instead, the Justice Department will set up a pool of money controlled by his allies that can dole out payments to those who claim to have suffered, quote, weaponization or lawfare by the U.S. government. Those terms have frequently been used by Trump and his allies to describe criminal cases against them. The Justice Department said there are no partisan requirements to file a claim. Trump on Monday said he was not involved in the creation of the fund. The top Democrat of the House Judiciary Committee, Jamie Raskin, criticized the lawsuit and the resulting settlement. He said the case, quote, is nothing but a racket designed to take $1.7 billion of taxpayer dollars out of the Treasury and pour it into a huge slush fund. U.S. President.
All right. So with that as background, again, I do anticipate that will be asked about today in the briefing. So I wanted to mention that. Let's see here. The briefing is at 1. It says right on the screen. Somebody said, when's the briefing? It actually says in 2 places on the screen when the briefing is. 1 Eastern time in about 30 minutes. Yes, as Stardust mentioned, I don't know if we're going to show it at all. Todd Blanche has been testifying in a congressional committee today, and he was asked some questions about this. But I don't know that we'll have a chance to show that before the briefing starts. What I got to do is we're doing this stream, and then I'm going to come back on a few hours after this stream to cover the Thomas Massie primary. So what I'll probably do is after the briefing, I'll get off the air and eat something, and then come back on we'll talk about the briefing, and then I'll get off the air and eat something, and then come back on for the Thomas Massie stream. Okay, so we have yeah, 2 streams today. So we have, I have a question for you guys. My question is this. So there's about 29 minutes till the briefing. Oh, actually, I have video from the briefing room. Hold on, I have video from the briefing room I can show. So maybe we should just, yeah, I think I'm not going to show the Trump. Well, I have a question for you guys. So we have early video from the briefing room. So first of all, let me get that on the screen for you. Then my question, what I was going to do is, hang on, I can't talk and do this at the same time. Let me get the video from the briefing room up on the screen. Then we can discuss. Okay, here we go. There, no, that's not it. Oh, I can see it. I'll put the audio on in a second. Let me make sure I have it here for you. Here is the White House press briefing room waiting for JD Vance. I have to put my headphones on too. There it is. Look, it's the briefing room. All right, so I have a question for you guys. This is live, the White House. I could, before the briefing, we could watch some of Trump's, appearance at the White House ballroom construction site. Or we could keep an eye on the briefing room and talk about some of the stories today. So I don't know if you guys have a preference either way, because we haven't even gotten a chance to watch President Trump at the construction site. Let's see. More people are saying the briefing room and the news stories than Trump. But some people are saying Trump, but more people are saying no. Some people are saying ballroom. I don't know. It's like even. It's a tough choice. We could watch Trump answer some questions. You know, we could keep the briefing room video on and then put Trump on answering questions in the corner so you can, because he took some questions. And not, well, I don't know. I got to figure it out. All right, here's what we're going to do. Oh, look, they're doing a white balance check. All right, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we have to do for a minute. I'm going to decide. I'm going to make a call. We'll put the audio on in a second. Here's what we're going to do. So the one thing we have to do before I decide is this is a sponsored broadcast, sponsored by our new sponsor, Rumble Wallet. I appreciate Rumble Wallet. So here's a quick word from me about Rumble Wallet. And then when we come back, I will make a decision what we're doing next. If you've ever been curious about buying and investing in crypto, like Bitcoin and stablecoins like USAT, but felt like it was too complicated, Rumble Wallet is an easy way to get started. You can buy, sell, and manage your cryptocurrencies all in one place, and the app is super straightforward. What really makes Rumble Wallet unique is you can use it to tip your favorite creators with crypto, as long as they have Rumble Wallet too. Getting started is simple. Just download the Rumble Wallet app, sign up or use your existing Rumble Wallet account, complete a few security steps, and you're set up in minutes. You can start with just a few dollars, and with MoonPay built into Rumble Wallet, you can easily buy crypto using your credit card, debit card, or bank wire. So if you've been thinking about the advantages of crypto, download Rumble Wallet now by scanning this QR code or by clicking the link in the show description. Rumble Wallet is a technology provider only and not a custodial service. See terms at wallet.rumble.com. Okay, so we're back. I'm going to put the audio on here. We have audio. And so I think that we should probably hold on. I think we should probably at least keep, at least in part, I think it'll be interesting to see this. So we only have 23 minutes. Hold on. I don't know if you guys can hear me over the noise. We only have 23 minutes until the briefing. So I feel like we should keep the camera on with the briefing, with the audio. And we can talk about some of the stories, but I know you guys like watching the pre stuff going on in the room. So, hang on a second here. So I'll keep the camera on, and we can talk about some of the other stories of today, and I can take some more comments from you guys. And to remind you, JD Vance is giving this press briefing because Karoline Leavitt is on maternity leave. So he is filling in today, and he's going to take questions. So he's not coming out to make a speech. He's literally coming out to do the White House press briefing like Karoline Leavitt would. That's what's happening. It's the White House press briefing, but with JD Vance. He's the special guest host. Always Bardowski says Rubio's going to be a tough act to follow. Yeah, general press briefing, like Stefanos said. So he could be asked about whatever. Is it rare for the VP to do this? Yes, because normally if the press secretary was there, this wouldn't happen. Normally the press secretary does it. Rubio did it a few weeks ago, and it was interesting. Yeah, like Marco did before, says Sweet Pea. Hey, I want to thank our moderators again. We have our moderators, Leslie Ladyhawk and Beth Mythical and Ruth on YouTube. Also Twitch. Thanks to our moderators over there. Good luck, Duck. I got that fire. Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah, and Surly Dev. And also Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. And let's see. Our Facebook moderators I want to thank as well. By the way, thanks for watching from Wasilla, Alaska, Murtis Sampson Rogers. Paul Anderson, Kay Lowry Body, Shannon Davis Hughes, moderating over there on Facebook. Really appreciate all of our moderators. And, hang on a moment here. Hang on a moment here. And I do not know. I mean, maybe it'll start on time, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how JD Vance handles his appearances like this. Oh, and I will post. I'm sorry, I forgot to post. We had an ad for Rumble Wallet that I did before, but I forgot to post the link in the chat. So for those who want it, Rumble Wallet link. For those interested, I will post that in the chat, which I forgot before. If you're not interested, then you can ignore the message. But for those who are interested, I just posted that. Okay. Let's see. Now, we have about 20 minutes. Our viewer Octosilias thinks he's going to say everything is great, best country, war won, etc., etc. Maybe he'll be asked about Thomas Massie, the Kentucky Republican who President Trump is very against. President Trump has reposted 4 anti-Massie posts today on True Social. Oh, breaking news! President Trump is endorsing Ken Paxton. President Trump endorsed Ken Paxton in Texas. He posted about it. Guys, President Trump endorsed. President Trump did not endorse the sitting Republican Senator John Cornyn. He 10 minutes ago endorsed Ken Paxton. Trump endorsed Ken Paxton. That just happened. So he's going to be asked about that. All right, here's what breaking news. We have breaking news. This is a long post, so just to show you some of it here, this was from 10 minutes ago. President Trump said the highly respected Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, an America First patriot and someone who has always been extremely loyal to me and our amazing MAGA movement, is running for U.S. Senate to represent a place I have won big 3 times. I know Ken well. He's a winner. He's a strong supporter of terminating the filibuster in the Save America Act. Perhaps Ken can help move these forward. He thinks the Democrats will terminate the filibuster on their first day in office, giving us 2 extra states, D.C. and Puerto Rico. and a greatly enlarged Supreme Court of the United States, probably going with their dream number of 21 justices? All right, so he's saying he thinks that when the Democrats take over an office in the future, I guess, at some point, he thinks they will get rid of the filibuster in the Senate and then add D.C. and Puerto Rico as states and enlarge the Supreme Court to 21 justices. Let's see. What else did he say? Again, this was about 10 minutes ago. President Trump, so endorsing against the sitting senator in Texas, John Cornyn, Republican. Ken is a true MAGA warrior. John Cornyn is a good man, and I worked well with him, but he was not supportive of me when times were tough. Despite having the most successful economy in the history of our country during my first term, and with all the other things I accomplished, which are considered to be legendary, John was very late in backing me in what turned out to be a historic run for the Republican nomination and then the presidency, both of which were landslide victories, and more importantly, gave us the country we have today, the golden age of America. And when we finish up with Iran, who will not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, you will see numbers that have never been generated by our country before, as opposed to the disaster of the previous administration. And Trump also said, this is his all from the same post about 15 minutes ago, endorsing Ken Paxton and failing to endorse sitting Republican Senator John Cornyn. By the way, early voting is already underway. People have sent in some early votes, I believe, in Texas, but President Trump had not made an endorsement decision. The actual election day is a week from Tuesday. Ken Paxton has been done through a lot, in many cases very unfairly, but he is a fighter and knows how to win. Our country needs fighters and also loyalty to the cause of greatness. All right. All right. Ken Paxton will never let you down. He has my complete and total endorsement. So remember, President Trump, Bill Cassidy, senator from New Orleans, senator from Louisiana, lost in the primary. We covered it last week. President Trump endorsed his opponents, specifically one opponent, but told people don't vote for Bill Cassidy. Bill Cassidy voted to convict Trump in the impeachment trial back in 2021 after January 6th. So President Trump wanted Bill Cassidy to lose, second-term U.S. Republican senator, and he finished in third in the primary, so he did not advance to the runoff, so he was out. And now President Trump has endorsed against John Cornyn, sitting Republican senator from Texas, and voted for and endorsed Ken Paxton. So JD Vance could get asked about that. All right, I want to take some comments from you guys, but that's big news. Trump endorses Ken Paxton. Maybe I'll put a little highlight on the screen. News. Trump endorses Ken Paxton in Texas Senate race. Put that up there just so people can see it. Okay, I want to take some comments from you. Sorry. Miss Link thinks he's going to be a tough pill to swallow for Texans. Well, there is this question about, another one of our viewers was saying that they thought that Ken Paxton that Cornyn would be a better general election candidate than Paxton would be. I have no, I don't know. Cravon thinks it's great news that Trump endorsed Paxton. Buck thinks Trump needs fighters for no more wars. Mike J says, as long as Paxton obeys him. Miss Math thinks that Tallarico, the Democrat in Texas, could actually have a shot against Paxton. This could get interesting. Now, we will be covering the Republican Texas Senate primary a week from today. Tonight we'll be covering Thomas Massey primary. Hang on a moment here. Political analyst Larry Sabato, and Larry is the director of Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. He thinks that Trump endorsing Paxton, he just posted this, is good news for the Democrat Tallarico, because he says if there's ever a year when a Democrat could win state line in Texas, it's 2026. So he thinks that Cornyn would be a better general election candidate than Paxton would be. Now, interestingly, Larry Sabato says he thinks Trump must have seen late polling that shows Paxton will win, which is interesting. So, did Trump wait on the endorsement until he thought he had a good idea that Paxton would win or not? I don't know. It's an interesting question. Nathaniel Rakich, who's an elections analyst I follow, he says that the polling, the polling has been tight for the Texas Republican runoff, but he thinks that the Trump endorsement will sew things up for Paxton. Brasilia Mia. So I owe a couple thank yous here. Brasilera Mia, thank you. She thinks independents will vote for Tallarico. Thank you, Tron Life and Crypto King, for your support. Also, our members Eris Kalar, Corey Bethune, Marcus Planespotting Germany, Turned Off, Sharon Goslin, Debbie James. Thanks to Jiggle Jess for your support, and Lou1210, thank you. Also, hang on a moment here. Thank you, Gaddafi, for subscribing on Twitch. Also, thanks Shiny Red Shoe for the memberships. Shiny Red Shoe gave 10 people memberships. That's very nice of Shiny Red Shoe. Thank you so much. Make sure you thank somebody if they gave you a membership or a subscription. Only about 7 minutes until JD Vance. JD Vance is literally giving the White House press briefing. He's filling in for Karoline Leavitt, guys. He's going to give the White House press briefing. Oh, I have a second camera from the White House. Hang on a moment here. We got to get this arranged for you. I have two cameras now from the White House. I think I like the first one's a little, well, they both have their appeal. Let me show you the first camera here. There's that one. Oh my gosh. It's the first camera. Two cameras. Which one to show? Oh, what happened to this? Live the White House. We need that up there. Do you guys like the wide camera or the close-up or the closer camera? I don't know. I think that maybe this one's better. I don't know. They're both good. Which one? Which one? Wide or narrow? Wide, right? Wide. Hey, thanks to Tron Life for your support. Thank you, Tron Life. Oh, a bunch of people like the close-up one. A bunch of people like close-up. All right. It's really kind of even. When it actually starts, they'll all be roughly the same. So we'll just go with one of them when it actually starts. I might go with the White House one when it's... The White House one is the one that shows the questioners. So I might just end up going with the White House one, although maybe I'll do a combination of it. But with the White House, you actually get to see the people asking the questions, which is nice. Let me just make sure I have that ready to go for you here. Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment here. Oops. First of all, I got to do this. First of all, I got to fix this. We got to fix this. Okay. Why is this? Oh, I see what's happening here. Oops. Oh, hang on a moment here. Give me a moment. We'll get everything under control. All right. So there's that. Oh, hold on. One moment here. Let's fix this. I see what happened here. All right, there's the one that's the White House, so we'll keep an eye on that feed. Oops, I didn't want to do that. We'll just keep, we have that feed handy. Okay. Hey, thanks so much to Roy1822. I really appreciate all your support. Roy1822 and your nice note. Thank you, Roy. Also, Tron Life from Canada and Least Trustworthy Weasel. Thank you. This one. Okay. So it's supposed to start in about 2 minutes. We'll see if it starts on time. We are waiting for JD Vance. What's it going to be like with JD Vance giving a press briefing? Will it be friendly? Will it be confrontational? Will it be both? We'll have to see. Shout out again to our moderators: Roberts Mayqueen, Leslie Ladyhawk, Danny James, Ruth, Beth Mythical. People want to see JD Vance. On Twitch, good luck, Duck. I got that fire. Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah and Surly Dev. Thank you. Also, thanks Country Gravy for the bits. Thank you, Country Gravy, and Larry Pickle Jar for the gift sub on Twitch. Thank you. Also, Linda Belk, Larry, Misha moderate for us on X, and our Facebook moderators. Thank you. Paul Anderson, K. Larry Body, Shannon Davis Hughes. Big thank you. And anybody else I'm missing. Thanks to all of our moderators. We are getting ready for JD Vance, White House press briefing, and I hope you can join us tonight for our coverage of the Thomas Massie primary. K. Hohones says Vance Rubio 2028. That's what our viewers said. Oh, NBC 10 Boston says Boston, where I am, just broke a high temperature record set in 1949. I mentioned earlier in my area of Boston, we had a brief power blip a couple hours ago. So hopefully that doesn't happen while I'm on the air, but it's very hot here. It is 92 degrees here today. So I'm hoping we don't have any issues. My fingers are crossed. We shouldn't, but you never know. Oh, I'm sorry. We reached 0. So on the clock. So it's really any moment now that it's going to start. So I'm going to change the headline to any moment. JD Vance is going to give the White House press briefing. Stephanie Kimber Hooper thinks this should be a hoot. That's Aisha Hasni of Fox, by the way, if I'm pronouncing her name right.
To give negotiations a chance. So he held off on those rights for how long. There is a lot of news in the Massachusetts president also making news a few moments ago on the Texas Senate primary. He just endorsed the Attorney General down there, Ken Paxton, for the Senate race in direct opposition to the leadership on Capitol Hill, Wayne Johnson, who is backing John Cornyn's or that seat.
She's with Fox News. Aisha, is it Aisha? I'm sorry. Maybe it's Aisha. I'm not sure.
About this, we'll ask about that as well. And by the way, California's Governor Gavin Newsom is in Washington right now, along with other 2028 potential candidates. We'll see if JD Vance, I don't know, when he runs, he might have a message.
And to repeat, this is the regular White House press briefing. People keep asking, what's the briefing about? It's the regular White House press briefing. He's literally filling in for the press secretary who is on maternity leave. It's the regular White House press briefing. Thank you to Malcolm Moore, by the way, from the UK. I really appreciate it. Malcolm Moore, thank you. One of the viewers said, why is he doing it? Where's her deputy? Well, it is interesting. I mean, it's a good question, which is, I'm sure there's somebody else in the press department there at the White House, the media relations department, who could do it. So it is, part of this is a choice by the White House to have him do it. Maybe they think it's helpful, looking towards 2028. I don't know. Brittany Baby Girl thinks it's weird. Running Bear thinks it's a political move. Paper City Gamer says, I think they are doing it to get more publicity to help approval numbers. Honeycomb thinks he's doing it for fun. Now, when it actually starts, I'll probably switch camera angles over to the White House camera angle. Or I might leave it on Reuters and then switch it over when the questions start. Because again, the White House camera angle, you can actually see them, the questioners. I like to be able to see the questioners. So if you see the camera angle switch when we start and the audio jump a little bit, it's because I'm switching it to make it best for you guys. So give me a moment when it starts to get everything kind of set up and arranged. Now, if I turn this off. We are about to see JD Vance. I don't know if he's done this before. I'm not aware that he has given his own White House press briefing, because maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember the press secretary being on leave previously. Putul Leftil thinks it was great when Rubio did it. I forget the date of that. It was interesting when Rubio did it. I think that might have been May 5th. I think it might have been 2 weeks ago when Rubio did it. Quiet in there. I don't know that there's been a 2-minute warning yet, though. Fox News says it'll be soon. Yes, it was supposed to start at 1, but Diane Rapp says, I love JD. Thanks to our member Tallulah A. Bell, by the way. Darcy Dudat thinks the Paxton announcement probably delayed this. I'm sure he'll be asked about that. The Sheldo says, make Cuba great again. There was a story yesterday in Politico that was talking about claiming the U.S. was considering military action in Cuba. He could be asked about that. Psychosis Nerd says, hope he talks about Trump stealing $1.7 billion from taxpayers. Certainly he's going to be asked about Iran. Paper Manic says it's all empty threats and he knows it. Mr. Bill thinks Rubio would make a great president. AS says spin zone. Look, there's a lot of people on the side there, too. We got all those people standing on the side. Oh, Running Bear says needs to address the 2 deadly outbreaks. Will he be asked about hantavirus and Ebola? I don't know. Again, he is filling in today for Karoline Leavitt, who is on maternity leave. He is giving a White House press briefing where they can ask him different questions. They can ask what they want. Evelyn in Maine says seen as a potential 2028 presidential contender. Burning Beard says seems like a huge demotion. CRT says she didn't have anyone on staff that could fill in. Eddie Spaghetti says Deputy Press Secretary might not have the answers that the press wants. It was supposed to start at 1. It's now 1:12, so it's really any moment now. Himster thinks Vance will do a fine job. WFT Jet thinks Karoline Leavitt is a huge talent and a deputy would disappoint. Wins T thinks JD is in the chat. I strongly doubt that. Thanks to our member, the one and only. Everybody's there waiting for JD Vance. I don't know exactly how long Karoline Leavitt is away for on maternity leave. That I do not know. Ken Roll thinks JD is trolling us. Thank you, Loss F3D3, for your support from Canada. Los F3D3. Who thinks JD Vance is the future president. Our viewer, Citric, says, why are they always late? Why set a time and then not abide by that time?
I like to think that they do. They're just looking at me in my time. Wow, you just got it.
Cyclone says, it's not uncommon the briefings are late.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not.
Sharp says, because things come up. Eric Brigant says, it's called government. It was supposed to start 16 minutes ago.
You're for here. You're for here. That's all that.
I sold out one more sitting there. Whatever it is.
I heard that too, but I don't think it was you. No. They hit me up about it. I don't know if it was me.
Again, JD Vance, Vice President Vance, is filling in for Karoline Leavitt today. Any moment now, he's supposed to start the briefing. It was supposed to start at 1 p.m. It is now 1:18 p.m. Eastern Time.
No.
No, there's no agenda for the conference. It's what people ask about. It's like a regular press briefing. It's up to the press to ask the questions. So we'll see what people ask about.
Well, I'm going to be
Oh, Senator Cornyn posted. Senator Cornyn posted after Trump endorsed against him and endorsed Ken Paxton. John Cornyn says, I have worked closely with President Trump through both of his presidential terms and voted with him more than 99% of the time. He has consistently called me a friend in this race. It is now time for Texas Republican voters to decide if they want a strong nominee to help our GOP candidates down ballot and defeat Talarico in November, or a weak nominee who jeopardizes everything we care about. I trust the Republican voters of Texas. That's Republican Senator of Texas John Cornyn, after President Trump endorsed his opponent, Ken Paxton. John Cornyn has held that seat for 24 years, since 2002. Hey, thank you, No Not November from Denmark. No Not November thinks Trump does what's best for his family, not America. Darcy Do That thinks Cornyn has done a good job. The Master Library Pub says we need a third Republican option in Texas. It is now 1:20 p.m. We are officially... somebody just came in from the door. Somebody came in from the door and is standing there. That was not JD Vance. Movement, yes, as Silver Hornet says, there was some movement. It is now, there is the computer. The person is putting stuff on the computer, on the monitor, through the computer. Look, we just saw, I think it was the Windows graphic. Oh my gosh, crazy. That guy is like holding a laptop. Oh, I can see him in the other camera. Oh, there he is with on his laptop. The guy is on the laptop. Oh my gosh, he's putting the graphics up on the screen. Uncredible, as our viewers say. He has just put the graphics on the screen with the laptop. He did it. Now he is checking the monitors. He is straightening the monitor. The guy is straightening out the monitor. Wow. Now he just left. Now he's walking out the door. Now he's gone. He is gone. It is 1:22 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm sorry for the delay. The official start time was 1. I wasn't making that up. Thanks, Parmanello from the UK. Thanks, Parmanello. Parmanello says, meeting's overrun, no biggie. Thank you for your comment. Parmanello for your note. I appreciate that and your support. Thanks to DSPBB over on Twitch for your support, and Spanked101 for subscribing, and Gek UC for subscribing, and Top Buzz for subscribing, and Larry Picklejar for your support. Again, thanks Country Gravy. We are waiting for JD Vance. He is giving the press briefing, filling in for the Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, who is on maternity leave. Thank you, Tech Omega, for being a member, and Sandra's Library for being a member. It is now 1:24 p.m. Dancing in the Sand, our viewer, says start times are just guesstimates. Capuletto Capulin says these things run late. It's normal, folks. Oh, I think he's about to come in. Well, I saw somebody came in, but it wasn't JD Vance, but somebody else came in. It might almost be happening. The door is opening up. The door. Oh no. Yes. Oh, that was behind. Oh, the other feed is behind. I think that's what's happening. Now I think I'm caught up. There. Now this should be caught up both ways. But we definitely saw that guy come in through the door. It's almost happening, says my mind spray. We have seen a guy fix the monitor and a guy come in. It is now 1:25 p.m. One of our viewers, Red World says, will JD dress like Karoline Leavitt? I don't think that's going to happen. It's a funny idea, though. It might be funny for a minute, and then like the rest of the time, you're like, why is he dressed like Karoline Leavitt? That would be interesting, though. Gromp says stranger things have happened. It is now 1:27. The start time was 1. Again, I apologize for the delay. I do not control the start time at the White House. Usually it's not this late. This is pretty late, I think, in my experience. Maybe there's big doings. David Beeden thinks that JD is on the phone with Iran. Everyone is waiting. The Ace Buzz, our viewer, thinks JD Vance is talking to Greenland right now. Keep Her for Life says maybe he forgot his briefing notes. Again, this is the regular White House press briefing, but the press secretary is on maternity leave, so JD Vance is filling in for her, which Marco Rubio did 2 weeks ago. Goju thinks he is rehearsing his talking points. Karen Renee Bronson says, I think something has happened and needs attention. OCD says, I think JD Vance forgot? It is now 1:30. We are officially 30 minutes after the start time. One of the viewers said, hurry up and wait. Kevster says, wow, the suspense. Everybody is waiting for JD Vance. It is now 1:31 p.m.
2 minutes until the briefing, 2 minutes until the briefing.
Breaking news, 2-minute warning, 2-minute warning, 2 minutes until the briefing. You just heard it. 2 minutes until the briefing. Oh my gosh. We have our 2-minute warning. Can you believe it? Wow. Two-minute warning. Here we go. JD Vance, White House press briefing. We'll see how it goes. There's probably only about a minute left now. Some people are recording it in the press with their phones. Look at all the people recording with their phones. Now, I may have to switch the camera angle when it starts. So if you see the camera switch and the sound jump a little bit at the start, it's because I'm changing it. Or I might wait to change it when they start asking questions, because the White House feed shows you the questioners. We'll try this feed for now and see how that goes. But bear with me if I have to just quickly switch the camera angle. It really should be any second now, because we got the, I think it was about 2 minutes ago, we got the 2-minute warning. Should be any second now. It really should be any second now. It is 1:34. Thank you, Cyrus the Virus. Cyrus says, are we getting the stimulus checks? Thanks, Cyrus the Virus, for your support and for being a member. We are waiting for JD Vance. I think it's been longer than 2 minutes since the 2-minute warning. But I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. WikiHan says 5 minutes for the 2-minute warning. Tilco says it's been over 2 minutes. Mona says it's been 3 minutes. Beatnik Bandit says 5 minutes is the new 2 minutes. Again, this is the regular White House press briefing, but JD Vance is giving it. So it's up to the reporters to ask what they want to ask about. Karoline Leavitt, the press. Oh, here he comes in. He comes in right now. Here we go. It's starting now. It's starting.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. How you guys doing? Good, good. Okay, I've got my cheat sheet here, so I know who to call on, most importantly, who not to call on. Let me start out with a few things. So first of all, proud to announce that next week I will be speaking at the Air Force Academy commencement ceremony. Last year I spoke at the Naval Academy commencement ceremony, and it was one of the great honors and privileges of my life. So I'm excited to go out there to Colorado and participate in that ceremony. The second thing is I want to highlight a little bit some of the work that we've been doing, the great work our team has been doing on the anti-fraud task force, where we have caught just in the last couple of months billions upon billions of dollars of fraud in our hospice system, in our Medicaid system, in our Medicare system, in our immigration system. We've seen hundreds of millions of dollars of fraudulent loans that were being handed out through the Small Business Administration that we've identified and stopped. And we've also started investigating some of the fraudulent criminal activity and also prosecuting some of the fraudulent criminal activity. So the thing that I say to the American people, and I'll repeat here to all of you, is, fraud is a crime that has two victims. It has, first of all, the American taxpayer, people who pay their taxes, who out of their generosity, and because they have to, of course, they pay their taxes expecting that it's going to go to pay our troops and ensure that low-income children have access to food and ensure that people get medical benefits even if they're not able to afford a doctor. I think it's a great thing about our country is that we have this generosity of spirit where we take care of one another, but fraud takes that away from us because it steals money from the taxpayer when they pay their taxes, and it also steals money from innocent people who are meant to benefit from these programs but can't when the money runs dry because it's gone to fraudsters instead of the people who benefit from it or should benefit from it. So we're going to keep that work up. The President of the United States has been very clear that he wants us to focus on fraud. He wants us to prosecute the fraudsters, and he wants us to save the American people as much money as we possibly can. So we're going to keep at it. We're very proud of that work, and importantly, very proud of the team who've done an incredible job. And then finally, just to give an update on the Iran negotiation, the Iran situation, I just talked to the president very briefly before I came out here. It's actually a very simple proposition here. There are two options, two pathways we can go down when it comes to the Iran situation. So step back for a little bit. What the President of the United States has said is, number one, Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. And I think it's important for the American people and all of you to appreciate that when we say that, it's not just that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, it's what would happen if the Iranians did get a nuclear weapon. We know that a lot of nations all across the Gulf would then want their own nuclear weapon, and then a lot of nations all across the world. And what has been a very effective bright spot of American foreign policy really for the last 20 or so years would disappear overnight. If you have every country in the world scrambling to try to get a nuclear weapon, it would make us all much less safe. And Iran would really be the first domino and what would set off a nuclear arms race all over the world. That's very, very bad for the safety of our country. As the father of 3 young kids, I don't want them to inherit a world where 20 additional regimes, half of them very dangerous and very sympathetic to terrorists, have nuclear weapons. We want to keep the number of countries that have nuclear weapons small, and that's why Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, on top of all the other things that we might be worried about, that they themselves could use it, that they could use it in leverage in economic control or economic negotiations. We just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. Now, what we did here is that we effectively degraded their conventional military capability. That has been done. That has been successfully done. You could always do a little bit more, but where we are now is the president has asked us, has told us, to aggressively negotiate with the Iranians. Why did I go to Islamabad, Pakistan? Why did I spend, I think, probably 22 hours on a plane going there, 24 hours coming back, and then 21 hours on the ground negotiating with the Iranians? Is because we wanted to show a sign of good faith. The Vice President of the United States is willing to cut a deal so long as the Iranians are willing to meet us, again, on that core issue of never having a nuclear weapon. We think that we've made a lot of progress. We think the Iranians want to make a deal. The President of the United States has asked us to negotiate in good faith, and that's exactly what we've done. So we're in a pretty good spot here, but there's an option B. And the option B is that we could restart the military campaign to continue to prosecute the case, to continue to try to achieve America's objectives. And we could talk a little bit about what that looks like, but that's not what the president wants, and I don't think it's what the Iranians want either. We have an opportunity here, I think, to reset the relationship that has existed between Iran and the United States for 47 years. That's what the president has asked us to do, and that's what we're going to keep on working at. But it takes 2 to tango. We are not going to have a deal that allows the Iranians to have a nuclear weapon. So as the president just told me, we're locked and loaded. We don't want to go down that pathway, but the president is willing and able to go down that pathway if we have to. So with that, I will say thank you all. It's cool to be here. I'm going to give a shout out, of course, to the person I am replacing today, Karoline Leavitt, who hopefully is at home enjoying some time with her beautiful kids. I told Karoline I would stand in for her today for the White House press briefing on the condition that when Usha has our baby in July, that she would be vice president for a couple weeks. So thank you, guys. And I actually want to start first with Nick from Breitbart. Nick, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you. Today we saw the president endorse Ken Paxton over John Cornyn in the Texas Senate race. Do you think that sends a message going forward for the next cycle to senators, considering running for re-election, or any MAGA-aligned potential candidates that are considering challenging them?
Well, I'd say a couple things, Nick. First of all, I think the president's very gratified by the response that he's heard from the base and from a lot of voters, I think, who are passionate about Ken Paxton. We think Ken Paxton is going to be a great senator for the people of Texas, but most importantly, a great United States senator who can work on solving the problems that all of us confront as a country together. I've known John Cornyn for a long time, but unfortunately, when it really counted, Ken Paxton was there for the country, was there for the president, and that's why he ultimately earned the president's endorsement. He thinks he's going to be a better senator, thinks he's going to make a better candidate, and so I do think it sends a message, but really not just the endorsement, but one of the things the president has done very effectively, going back 10 years in his leadership of the Republican Party and the country as President of the United States, is he said, I want people who fight for the good. I want people who can't be bought by corporate lobbyists, who can't be bought by Wall Street, who can't be bought by special interests, who are going to go to Washington and fight for the people who actually elected them to those positions. And I think one of the things we've seen in the Republican Party, while I can't say that all of our representatives are perfect or all of our senators are perfect, we have seen a much better crop of talent come into Washington since Donald Trump has been the leader of the party and the leader of the movement. I do think we're going to continue to see that happening. But I think the message that people should take from this is fundamentally, you have got to serve the people who sent you. And if you don't do that, you're going to find yourself out of step with voters or out of step with the President of the United States, and that's not a good place to be politically.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
very much. Just following up on what you just said, you said that the White House is negotiating with Iran in good faith. I think Americans tend to believe that, but what is it about the Iranian side that you personally have seen where you believe that they are negotiating with us in good faith?
Well, first of all, I'd say it's a very complicated country, and it's a country that I wouldn't pretend that I understand even after as deep as I've been involved in this process from the very beginning. It's a great and proud civilization, amazing people. We obviously have a great Iranian American community here in the United States of America, smart people, very hardworking, and you see some of that in the negotiating team on the other side. You also see some very hardline positions in the negotiating team on the other side, and so I think you see that conflict, the fact that maybe the Iranians aren't themselves quite clear in what direction they want to go to. They also are just a fractured country. So you have the leadership of the country, there's the supreme leader, and then there are a lot of officials below the supreme leader that has some influence in the negotiation. It's not sometimes totally clear what the negotiating position of the team is. And I don't know if that's sometimes bad communication, if that's bad faith. I wouldn't pretend to venture a guess there, but I will say with confidence, it's sometimes hard to figure out exactly what it is that the Iranians want to accomplish out of the negotiation. So what we've done is tried to be as clear as possible. What are our red lines? What are the things that we're willing to be accommodating on? And what are the things that we absolutely must have? And as the president has said ad nauseum, and I think I've said it a lot too, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. We want to see not just the commitment to not have a nuclear weapon, but the commitment to work with us on a process to ensure that not just now, not just when Donald Trump is president, but years down the road that the Iranians are not rebuilding that nuclear capability. And that's what we're trying to accomplish in the negotiation. Sorry, you had a follow-up.
Yeah, just for Americans at home, because this has been going on for several weeks now. I think what people just want to know is, do you personally believe that the Iranians will come to a deal? Because we keep seeing this over and over again when they go back and forth.
So do I personally believe it? The honest answer is, how could I possibly know, right? And you negotiate with people, and sometimes you feel like you're making progress, and sometimes you feel like you're not making progress. What I think is that the Iranians want to make a deal. What I think is that the Iranians recognize that a nuclear weapon is the red line for the United States of America, that they've internalized that, but we're not going to know until we're actually putting pen to paper on signing a deal. We've had a lot of drafts, a lot of pieces of paper going back and forth, but I will not say with confidence that we're going to reach a deal until we're actually signing a negotiated settlement here. And I think that it's ultimately up to the Iranians whether they're willing to meet us, because I think we're certainly doing a good job and we're certainly negotiating in good faith. We're going to have to see what ultimately happens with them. I can't say with confidence because I don't know what's in the mind of the other side. John?
Mr. Vice President, thank you. I want to ask you about that $1.8 billion fund set up, weaponization fund as it's being called. Why should taxpayers be paying to settle a $10 billion lawsuit that was brought by the President of the United States? And should people that attacked the Capitol building and assaulted police officers, should they be eligible? Should they receive money? Should they receive money from this fund?
Well, let me say a couple things about that. First, John, I think in some ways the media has misrepresented what this is actually about. This is about compensating Americans for the lawfare that we saw under the last administration. And by the way, anybody can apply for it. Republicans can apply for it. Democrats can apply for it. As you know, the President of the United States has pardoned a number of Democrats who he felt were actually subject to this lawfare. I mean, if Hunter Biden wants to apply for this particular fund, he is welcome to. It's going to go through a normal process where we vet everything, where we try to identify whether people's claims are actually legitimate. But here's the question. When you say, why should taxpayers fund this? Whenever the United States government incurs legal expenses, it pays out those legal expenses. When it's settling a lawsuit, it pays out money to settle that lawsuit. And the question is a dollar of this money going to the Trump administration? No. Is a dollar of this money going to Donald Trump personally? No. Is a dollar of this money going to Donald Trump's family? No. The people that would get the money are people, some of whom have been prosecuted completely disproportionate to any crime they've ever committed. Like, let's just take a couple of examples. Tina Peters is this woman who is about to get out of prison, thanks in large part to the president's good work in Colorado. This is a woman who, at worst, if you believe everything that the prosecutors said about her, committed misdemeanor trespassing, and somebody threw the book at her, this innocent grandmother was going to spend 10 years in prison, completely disproportionate to any misdemeanor trespassing that I've ever seen. Was that fair? No. Is it reasonable for her to get some compensation for the fact that she was treated unfairly? I think the answer is yes, and I think that what we're going to see, hopefully, is the entire country, led by this Department of Justice, turning the page on the lawfare. What I would like to propose, and I think the Democrats, hopefully they're willing to meet us halfway here. I won't hold my breath. But what I would propose is something very simple. That if you are willing to turn the page on Joe Biden's lawfare, why don't we prosecute people? Very simple principle. Why don't we prosecute people who violate the law? Let's not prosecute people because they said the wrong thing or because they had the wrong political candidate or because they had the wrong viewpoint. And I think part of turning the page on that is to actually ensure the real victims of that lawfare receive some compensation. That's what this fund is going to be targeted at. And again, there's going to be a process to ensure that that money is only given to people who have actually, I hate to say earned it, but the people who actually were really mistreated by the previous administration and Department of Justice. Go ahead.
I understand that everybody is eligible to apply for this fund. I mean, you're eligible, but I assume you're not going to apply and you don't think you should get money out of this fund.
Of course.
So isn't it just as easy to say that people that attacked police officers should not get taxpayer money from this fund?
Well, look, John, we're not trying to give money to anybody who attacked a police officer. We're trying to give money, we're trying to compensate people where the book was thrown at them, they were mistreated by the legal system. Sometimes, we do have, John, in this country, innocent until proven guilty. We do have people who were accused of attacking law enforcement officers. That doesn't mean that we're going to completely ignore some of the claims that they're going to make. We're going to evaluate these things on a case-by-case basis. And if we think that somebody, whatever they were accused of, if we think that somebody was unfairly prosecuted and deserves just compensation, then that's what this fund is going to exist to provide. It's just going to correct a wrong, and I think that's a good thing. And I'd encourage everybody, Democrat, Republican, Independent, let's turn the page on this thing that we did under the last administration where we tried to throw people in prison because they had the wrong politics. Let's throw people in prison who broke the law. I think this fund is a good part of getting justice for the people who were wrongly treated. Back there, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So just to follow up on that quickly, does that mean that people that were violent, that were convicted, were mistreated? Are you saying that?
Well, you're asking me to comment on hypotheticals and on any number of dozens of cases. Here's the thing. We're going to look at everything case by case. As you know, every single case has its own details. Every single case has, there are things about it that maybe don't meet the eye. We're just going to look at every case by case. That's all I'm saying. I'm not committing to giving anybody money or committing to giving no one money. What I'm committing to is a legal process to review these claims and to make sure that people who are mistreated by their government get a little bit of compensation because of it. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Yes, sir. I realize that the pointer finger is not as precise as I thought it was. The guy in, I have this cheat sheet, but the problem with being 41 years old is I'm blinder than I was a few years ago. So we'll say blue blazer, blue tie. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'd like to ask a quick follow-up on Iran, but first I'd like to ask you about fentanyl. Fentanyl sourced largely from China killed about 403,000 Americans over the past 7 years, according to CDC data. That's one in every 850 Americans who died. White House Counterterrorism Director Sebastian Gorka said last week that China's exports amounted to the targeted killing of Americans and war by other means. Do you agree with that assessment, and what is the Trump administration doing to punish and deter China, especially since the Supreme Court struck down the fentanyl tariffs?
So go ahead and ask the second question, because I'll try to take each question and then I'll try to answer them and then we'll go on. And if you ask two questions, I can only guarantee that I'll answer one. In fact, I'm a politician. Maybe I won't even answer the one that you asked. But I will try at least to answer one question.
Okay, well, I'd love to hear the fentanyl response too, if not today sometime.
Go ahead.
On Iran, is Russia taking possession of the enriched uranium in Iran a plausible end to the war? And if not, why not?
So first, on the Russia taking possession of the enriched uranium, look, these things are being discussed through negotiation. That is not currently our plan. That has never been our plan. I've seen some reporting on that. I don't know where it comes from, but the president's going to continue to negotiate a deal. So that is not currently the plan of the United States government. The Iranians have not raised it. My sense is that's not something the Iranians would be particularly excited about, and I know the president isn't particularly excited about it either, but who knows? I'm not going to make pre-commitments in a negotiation on any particular topic. On the question of fentanyl, a lot of people have died from fentanyl, absolutely. A lot of it has come from mainland China. We're certainly aware of that. But here's what I'll say. First of all, we've made incredible strides under Donald Trump's leadership to cut down on fentanyl deaths. If you look at the number of people who died in 2026, it's going to be lower than the number who died in 2025, which is way lower than the number who died in 2024. This is one of the things that I think all Americans, we should be celebrating, and I'm certainly proud of the president's leadership for making this possible. We ran, if you remember, in November of 2024 on a very simple idea that a lot of fentanyl came from East Asia, it was smuggled into Central and South America, and then the cartels would bring it into our country, and a lot of our people would get poisoned and killed because of it. We said if you got control of the southern border, we would see a substantial reduction in the number of people who died from fentanyl overdoses in the United States of America, and that is exactly what's happened. Now, yes, the president has raised this with President Xi any number of times. I know it came up during the meeting that they had in China just last week, but it's come up in any number of phone calls, and our sense is that President Xi has been willing to work with us on this, and obviously we want to continue to ensure that the Chinese work with us as much as possible because we don't want our people to be poisoned. So we'll keep working on that issue with the Chinese. There's been, I think, a big amount of progress that's been made, but of course we can make a lot more progress, and we're certainly going to be committed to doing exactly that. Right. Yeah. White jacket, sorry.
Oh, hey, yeah, Natalie with Washington.
Natalie, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vice President. Does the government need to create a new mandatory review process for new AI models, given the concerns about mythos? And secondly, in a few days, Pope Leo is going to release his encyclical on artificial intelligence. What influence, if any, do you see the Pope's guidance on AI having to broader society?
Well, I mean, I think when the Pope issues an encyclical on artificial intelligence, it's going to have some influence. I, of course, don't know how much influence. I don't know exactly what it's going to say. But I think when the leader of the world's largest Christian denomination speaks on an issue like that, it's certainly going to have some influence. And I'm sure it'll contain a lot of insights, some of which I'll probably agree with, some of which I may not. But I think that it's going to be a very, very important document. And I think that, you know, one of the things I always found fascinating about Pope Leo is that he chose the name Leo XIV, which of course is recollecting Leo XIII. Leo XIII was the Pope during a period of incredible industrial transformation in the entire world. Of course, that industrial transformation, according to a lot of people, led to the rise of fascism and communism in Europe. I think it was interesting that Leo XIV chose that name to maybe apply Christian social teaching in a new era with a new technological innovation in the same way that the Industrial Revolution was the technological innovation of its time. So I think it'll be fascinating. I'm looking forward to reading it. My guess is it's going to have a lot of influence. On the question of what our policy is going to be, look, what we're trying to do in the Trump administration is very simple. The president wants us to be pro-innovation. He wants us to win the AI race against all other countries in the world. He recognizes that AI is going to be an important tool, not just for our economy, but for our military. And so he wants to ensure that we are winning that particular race. We also want to make sure that we're protecting people. We're protecting people's data. We're protecting people's privacy. I think with this Mythos release, one of the things that we're very focused on, of course, is whether not necessarily the developers of Mythos, but whether some other bad actor could use Mythos to target various cybersecurity vulnerabilities. So it's something that right now we're working in a collaborative way with the technology companies, and we're just trying to make sure that the American people are as safe as possible. I'm not going to get ahead of the executive order or any other actions that are going to come out, but we're trying to balance those two things. We want to be pro-innovation. We recognize, I mean, artificial intelligence could be great. It could help us find cures to diseases that currently, you know, people are dying from or suffering from. It also does have some downsides, and we're trying to balance that safety against innovation, and we think that we've got the right balance here in the Trump administration, but it's something we're going to have to keep on working on because that's just the nature of these technologies is they certainly change. Let's go. Is that Reagan all the way in the back? Daily caller? There we go. Okay. I figured out finally how the seating chart works.
I want to ask you about the anti-fraud task force. You previously mentioned that Ilhan Omar seemed to have committed immigration fraud. Do you anticipate an indictment against her, an indictment related to that situation?
Yeah, so Reagan, I don't want to prejudge an investigation. I mean, you read the things about Ilhan Omar and about, who she married and whether she didn't marry this person or that person. It certainly seems like something fishy is there, but everybody's entitled to equal justice under the laws. So we're going to investigate it. We're going to take a look at it. If we think that there's a crime, we're going to prosecute that crime, and that's something the Department of Justice is looking at right now.
Mr. Vice President.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Based on what you've seen during your work on this anti-fraud task force, do you believe anything should change about our immigration or refugee policies to stop fraud in the United States?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, one thing I'd say is that the biggest immigration fraud that existed under the Biden administration, it's not just that they let a flood of people across the southern border. That was obviously a very major problem and something I'm proud of the president for stopping. But it's also that they allowed the asylum and refugee claimant process to become totally fraudulent. And so here's what would happen, right? You would take a person who, in normal cases, would just be a traditional economic immigrant. Whether you let them into the country or not, they're trying to come because they want a better job, okay? They would come into the country and say that they were fleeing persecution, and they would say that they were an asylum claimant. And then effectively what the Biden administration would do is say, okay, you're an asylee, go into the interior of the country, here's a work permit, maybe come back in 10 or 12 years for your hearing on whether you actually have a legitimate asylum claim. So what did that mean? That meant that person was just completely given amnesty and released into the interior of the country. Well, what if that person was a criminal? What if that person actually had a violent history? We didn't do any of the work necessary to ensure that the people coming into our country claiming to be asylum claimants actually had anything legitimate or anything good in their background. So that is a serious problem. It is something that we have fixed in the Trump administration, but fundamentally that loophole, you're going to see sometime in the future somebody is going to try to exploit that loophole, and it's one of the things that we're very focused on in the fraud task force is making sure that the people who exploited that loophole are actually prosecuted for it, assuming they committed a crime. Yes. So I don't know your name. You have a beautiful cross necklace, though, so go ahead.
Kara Castronovo from Lindell TV.
Hi,
Thank you so much. I have two questions. One of them is going back to the $1.8 billion fund, not to keep beating that, but sadly Democrat lawmakers are misrepresenting that fund.
I agree.
Yes.
It's a great question.
And sadly some of the mainstream media doesn't understand the magnitude of the political persecution of J6ers. So if a violent offender like a J6er was still over-sentenced and mistreated, literally some of them were sentenced to 24 years in prison, put in unconstitutional pre-trial detention, literally tortured in cages, wouldn't that person still be able to apply for the fund because of due process? And
this is why we say, just to answer that very briefly, this is why we say we have to evaluate this thing case by case, right? We don't in the United States say that everybody who's accused of a crime is automatically guilty in a court of public opinion. You've got to actually look at this stuff and figure out what were they accused of. Maybe they did something bad even, but what they were accused of was way worse of what they actually did. Maybe they had their entire lives ruined in a totally disproportionate way. That's fundamentally illegitimate and political. And I find, just Carol, on this point, one of the interesting things about the American media is there is a fascination. If you go to any American law school, there are these, prisoner rights clinic. There are people who objectively committed heinous crimes, but the American media and the American Legal Academy has decided that even though they committed bad crimes, their sentence was disproportionate, they were mistreated in some way. You know who never ever gets an ounce of sympathy when it comes to that disproportionate sentencing is people who voted for Donald Trump and participated in the January 6th protest. Go to your second question. Interesting things about the American media is there is a fascination. If you go to any American law school, there are these prisoner rights clinic. There are people who objectively committed heinous crimes, but the American media and the American Legal Academy has decided that even though they committed bad crimes, their sentence was disproportionate, they were mistreated in some way. You know who never ever gets an ounce of sympathy when it comes to that disproportionate sentencing is people who voted for Donald Trump and participated in the January 6th protest. Go to your second question.
About Pete Davidson, he made a horrific, obscene joke about the murder of your friend Charlie Kirk. What does this still say about where our political divisions have gone, and what are you specifically doing to bridge the divide, especially as a potential future president?
Well, sorry, who was it that said something?
Davidson made a really obscene joke about Charlie Kirk. So what are you doing as a potential future candidate or president to bridge the divide?
Well, first of all, I'm not a potential future candidate. I'm a vice president, and I really like my job, and I'm going to try to do as good of a job as I can. But let me just say this. So you talked about Pete Davidson, who said something bad about Charlie Kirk. Look, Charlie was a very, very dear friend, but more importantly than that, Charlie was a father of 2 beautiful kids, and he did not deserve to have all of those moments with his kids, all of those moments with his beautiful wife taken from him in the way that happened. I would expect everybody with a heart or a conscience would say whatever we agreed or disagreed with about his particular viewpoints, this is a tragedy, and it's totally unacceptable that it happens in the United States of America. To their credit, a lot of the reporters in this room, even though I don't agree with their politics, they were open about the fact that what happened to Charlie was disgusting and it shouldn't happen in a civilized country. You talk about bridging the divide. I mean, one thing that happened that hits, not quite literally close to home, but there was a very terrible shooting that happened today at a Muslim community center. It seems like 3 people are dead, plus the shooters. And, that community center is actually very close to this restaurant that Usha and I go to every time we visit. Her family lives in San Diego. She was born and raised in San Diego. Every time we go to San Diego, we go to this restaurant that is like maybe a 5-minute drive from this community center. And I found out about it actually on my way to the White House this morning, and I texted her. I said, would you have known anybody who was like involved in this? And she said, absolutely, I would have known some people, or at least their parents, who might have actually used the services at this community center. I don't know a single person who would say anything other than what I'm about to say, which is that type of violence in the United States of America is reprehensible, and I encourage every single American to pray for everybody who was involved and affected by it. We don't want that to happen in our country, and may God rest the souls of the people who lost their lives. What I do find a little distressing is that while every person I know, every politically conservative person I know would say exactly what I said about these innocent people who were killed, there were a lot of people who were celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. And I think one way that we can bridge the divide is just have a very simple principle in this country. Number one, we don't want the government throwing people in prison because they have bad politics, however you define bad politics. Number two, and way more importantly, political violence, wherever it comes from, is unacceptable in the United States of America. Let's talk with one another, not shoot each other when we disagree. I think that's the principle that everybody in this room agrees with. It's certainly the principle the President of the United States agrees with. Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm gonna try to read this here. I'm sorry? Okay. Okay, that was kind of interesting, so I'm going to give you the question. All right, go ahead.
So, last week, the Pentagon halted deployment of 4,000 troops, U.S. troops, to Poland. This is in direct contradiction to President Trump explicitly promised not to reduce the troop level in Poland. So, I'm going to ask you this question, which many people in Poland think. Why are you rewarding Putin and punishing your best ally in Europe?
Well, first of all, I'd say there's been no president who's done more, frankly, to ensure that Ukraine survived the invasion of Russia than Donald Trump. As he famously said, Obama gave him sheets, I gave him javelins, and it was those javelins that ensured that Ukraine still has its territorial sovereignty. What he's also said is that he wants to pursue an American policy that focuses on the interests of the United States. And part of that foreign policy is not to reward Putin or not to punish a country like Poland, which we love. We love Poland. We love the Polish people. No. What we're trying to do, what our foreign policy is geared towards, is promoting European independence and sovereignty. We want Europe to take more ownership over its own territorial integrity. We want Europe to step up in a big way. Now, I think you said 4,000 troops. We've not reduced the troop levels in Poland by 4,000 troops. What we did is that we delayed a troop deployment that was going to go to Poland. That's not a reduction. That's just a standard delay in rotation that sometimes happens in these situations. But here's the fundamental problem. Poland is capable of defending itself, with a lot of support from the United States. We're not talking about pulling every single American troop out of Europe. We're talking about shifting some resources around in a way that maximizes American security. I don't think that's bad for Europe. That's encouraging Europe to take more ownership. The United States cannot be the policeman of the world. We want to be good allies. We want to make sure that our troop presence promotes regional stability in Europe. The president has not said, though he could, the president has not said that he's taken all of the troops out of Europe, but Europe has to stand on its own 2 feet. And that's something that he's been consistent of, frankly, not even since the beginning of this administration, going back to the first administration, is we have got to have more sovereignty and more of Europe standing on its own 2 feet. That will continue to be our policy in Europe.
Those troops will go eventually to Poland?
What I said is that is it a delay in troop rotation? Those troops could go elsewhere in Europe. We could decide to send them elsewhere. We actually haven't made the final determination about where those troops are ultimately going to go. But what I'm saying is it is not accurate to say that we are pulling a bunch of troops out. It is a very small and very minor thing. And I think, frankly, a lot of the European media, again, is overreacting to this a bit. And here's one thing I'll say about this. Look, I have, for my entire life, I'm 41 years old. For my entire life, I have heard chirping from the European media about everything that's wrong with the United States of America. We don't have this. We don't have that. We don't spend enough on health care, even though part of the reason why we spend so much on defense was because we have tens of thousands of troops in Europe. I think that if the European media wants to attack the President of the United States, they need to start looking in the mirror. All he has said is that we're going to be good allies, we're going to be good friends, we're going to be trading partners, but it is reasonable for Europe to take a little bit more ownership over its continental integrity. Caitlin.
Vice President, I have a question on the war, but just to follow up, you previously told me that anyone who assaulted a police officer on January 6th should go to prison. So why not rule out giving them taxpayer-funded money?
Well, Caitlin, what I said is we're going to look at everything case by case. Because, Caitlin, there are people who I don't know their individual circumstances, and I don't rule things out categorically when I know nothing about a person's individual circumstances. Let's say a person is accused, let's say hypothetically, a person is accused of doing something that they never actually did, that they got a kangaroo court, that they had a judge who mistreated them. I think that we should look at those things case by case. We're not making commitments to give anybody money. We're just making commitments to look at things case by case.
But just to follow up on the war, you last week denied that the president said he was not taking Americans' financial situations into consideration when he's making decisions on the Iran war. He was asked about that again. He stood by it, called it a perfect statement, and said he would make it again. Do you believe that Americans' financial situations should be taken into consideration when you're making decisions as an administration about the war?
See, Caitlin, what you did is you misrepresented the question that I was asked, and then you misrepresented the answer that I gave. What I said is that a question that was asked where the president allegedly said that he didn't care about Americans' financial situations. He never said that. What he said is that it was totally taken out of context. What he said is that when he is negotiating with the Iranians, he's focused on the national security objectives that he's trying to achieve. Of course, the president has a mandate to be focused on a number of things. And I guarantee you every single day, I have conversations with him about it. Every single day, he's worried about his fellow Americans. He wants them to be prosperous. He wants them to thrive. He wants them to have good jobs. That's why we've done the things and taken the steps that we've taken in order to create record job growth, in order to create record wage growth, in order to induce trillions of dollars of new investment into our country. That's because he cares about that stuff. What he also said is that when he's talking to the Iranians, he's talking to the Iranians about questions, of course, of national security, like their nuclear program. You could hold two thoughts in your head at the same time, that the president cares about financial security for Americans, but also when he's negotiating with the Iranians, he's talking about the issues that are germane to the concerns of that particular conflict.
Going back to the price tag for this DOJ fund, $1.8 billion. You have people that can't afford groceries. Gas is high. People are making sacrifices in their personal lives to accommodate for this rise in prices. People are telling us that they feel financially worse off. They're very concerned about the uncertainty. How can you justify that amount of taxpayer money for that fund when people are struggling? What do you say to Americans who wonder why this fund is getting all this money and I can't afford basic life amenities?
Well, let me say a couple things about that. First of all, you said $1.8 billion, and it's important for people to realize we're not just writing a $1.8 billion check. We're going to take a lot of people who are going to apply and say that they have been mistreated by their government. We're going to handle those situations case by case. And if we determine they were in fact mistreated by their government, we think it's reasonable to give them just compensation. But when you talk about funds and pots of money that are out there, I mean, thanks to Donald Trump's leadership and the Working Families Tax Cut, we put $40 billion into a rural health care fund in order to stop the closure, or at least prevent some closure, of rural hospitals and rural clinics that had been decimated under the Biden administration. We had a piece of tax legislation that put hundreds of billions of dollars into the pockets of families. No taxes on Social Security, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on tips. So I reject the idea that we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. We can give just compensation to people who are mistreated by the government. We can also make sure that the American people, we do everything that we can to make their lives better, to make them more prosperous, to give them better jobs. That is the primary focus of Donald J. Trump's White House. That's the question all of us ask every single day is, how do we make our fellow citizens more prosperous? We can do that while also taking care of people who were mistreated by the last administration. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Kurdi, sir. After the ceasefire with Iran, drone and missile attacks on the Kurdistan region have not stopped. That happened yesterday as well. What is your position on this issue, and what do you expect from the new Iraqi government regarding the control of militias?
Well, as you know, you've asked the president this question before, and we certainly love the people of Kurdistan. Anytime that drone attacks or missile attacks are hitting anybody, but particularly civilian populations, that's not something we like to see at all. And it's one of the things that sometimes happens. Unfortunately, these ceasefires, they're not always perfect. We've seen that in Gaza. We've seen that certainly in Iran and some of its neighbors. But we have seen a significant reduction in violence over the last few weeks of the ceasefire. And look, fundamentally, the president's been quite clear. This is going to go, again, in one of two directions. We're going to restart the war, which is not the preference of the president of the United States. We're going to restart the operation, or we're going to strike a deal, and I think that's an important thing. That's what we're focused on, and that's what we're going to keep on working towards. Okay. It is very... Okay. In like the kind of the purple dress there, yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
No, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. Rowena Ortiz with Turning Point USA. There has been an uptick in religious violence across the country. What's your message to protect people across all faiths in America?
I appreciate that question. Obviously, Turning Points would know a lot about this issue. As we talked about earlier, you guys have been the subject of a fair amount of violence yourself. I guess what I would say is the principle of religious violence is particularly disgusting, especially in the United States of America. And as a devout Christian, I would say it's one of the most anti-Christian things and anti-American things that you could do. And here's why. One, because a fundamental principle of all the great faiths is we are all children of God, and because of that, we are endowed by certain rights that are unique to our status as human beings. You violate those rights, most importantly, when you commit violence against another person. You can violate them in other ways as well, but the most profound way to violate the fundamental right of human dignity is to commit violence. But here's why the religious piece of it is particularly egregious. One of the fundamental American rights that I think came from our Christian heritage as a civilization is the idea that we respect people's religious freedom, in part because we respect them as human beings, but also because we respect their right to find their own pathway to God. You can't force anybody to a pathway to God. They have to, through their own free will, find God themselves. That's one of the reasons why that right of religious freedom is the very first right enshrined in our Constitution. So when you commit acts of violence, you're committing an act against this fundamental idea that people are created in the image of God and that they have the right through their own free will to find God however they might want. And as a Christian, of course, you might have your preference for how they find their pathway to God. They have to find that choice. And anybody who would commit violence against another human being in the name of religion is, I think, doing something that is a violation, of course, of the laws of man, but I think more importantly, it is a fundamental violation of the laws of God. Let me go with. Okay, Garrett, you have your hand up. Garrett,
That's right. That's right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Midterms are well underway. You've got voters going to the polls in 6 states today. You and the president ran on a platform that included no new wars, cutting gas prices, cutting inflation. What do you say to the people who are going to the polls today and who feel like those promises are unkept?
Well, I'd say a few things. First of all, we've delivered great wins for the American people. We ran on delivering tax cuts to the American people, which we did, the largest tax cuts in American history. We ran on cutting taxes, particularly on people who were working on overtime, working on tips. We cut taxes for those Americans. We ran on the promise of bringing investment back into the United States of America, that rather than factory closures, we were going to have factories opening. And we've seen both construction jobs and manufacturing, but also manufacturing jobs have great rebounds under the Trump administration and under our leadership. We are very aware that because of what's going on in the Middle East, gas prices have gone up and a lot of Americans are struggling because of that. Our view is that it is a temporary increase. We're taking a number of steps to try to push back against it and try to ensure that Americans are paying as little at the pump as possible. But I feel quite confident after we've taken care of business in the Middle East, those prices are going to come down. And there have been a lot of prices, as you know, a lot of prices from rent to housing, where we still got a lot of work to do, but we do see some real progress made across the economy on pricing, but also on people's jobs. Okay. I have John. I'm going to call on John. I'm just going to start calling John Rosh. Yes.
Thank you.
Great to see you too. Thank you.
So Trump initially said that the war would last 6 weeks. We are now, it's been going on for 11 weeks and 3 days. What's your message to the American people as to why it's gone on so long and it hasn't ended yet?
Well, first of all, the president said it's going to be a short-term operation, and I think that has proven out to be true. The active period of conflict lasted about 5.5 weeks, and now we've been in the ceasefire where we're trying to get a negotiated settlement that gets the American people the things that we need for our national security. So I've said before that we're going to go one of two options here. We're going to have a good settlement that actually gets the American people what they need, or we're going to go back to a kinetic operation. Obviously, the president prefers to get that settlement. I think the Iranians prefer to get that settlement. But regardless of what direction the president ultimately goes down, whatever he ultimately decides, I think it's important for the American people to know two things. Number one, it will be for their security and their prosperity. That's why we're doing this. And number two, this is not going to be the sort of thing that lasts forever. I think a lot of Americans, especially in my generation, who are worried about forever, endless conflicts, we have to remember, I think you said 11 weeks, a big chunk of that has been a ceasefire. This is not a forever war. We're going to take care of business and come home. That's what the president's promised, and that's exactly what he's going to deliver. Go ahead. Yes. No, the orange. Yeah. Guys, please don't shout over each other.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Egyptian Foreign Minister today, in an interview on CNN, he said that the Arab countries are working with you on a memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran that can lead to a deal. Can you confirm that? And one other question also on Iran. You've spent over than 20 hours with the Iranian negotiating. Do you believe that other countries may be able to achieve what those negotiations could not?
Well, I think that the purpose of our initial negotiation was, one, to establish some relationships between two countries that hadn't talked directly in a very, very long time. And number two, just to get the pathway started to negotiation. I don't think any of us, meaning me, Jared Kushner, and Steve Witkoff, had any great confidence that we were going to be able to reach a deal. But we did think we were going to take important steps along the pathway to reaching a deal, and we did. Now, you asked what the Egyptian foreign minister said. I haven't seen those comments, so I won't comment on them myself. What I'd say is I'm not going to detail what's going on in the negotiation. There's a lot of back and forth. A lot of good progress is being made. But we're just going to keep on working at it, and eventually we'll either hit a deal or we won't. but we're going to keep on working at it. And I think it's important for us to actually privately have these conversations, because sometimes when you're doing a negotiation and you put everything out there in public, it actually complicates things more than it should. So we're going to keep these negotiations private until we've got something, of course, to tell the American people, and at that time we will. Okay. Is that a magenta tie? It's hard to tell. He's like a purple tie there, right?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. So this guy insists that he has the real purple tie. So I'll give you a question too. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Two questions for you, one on Iran and one on China, given the President's trip last week to Beijing. On Iran, you met on April the 11th with Iranian negotiators, including the foreign minister. Is it your sense, Mr. Vice President, that they're just stringing the U.S. along? That's the sense from lawmakers from both parties. And then on China, you come from a state that manufactures a lot of automobiles. Is it your sense that within this term that you have with the President, that China-branded vehicles will be sold right here in America?
Well, I think that what the president has shown a willingness to do, unlike any president in my lifetime, is to protect the American automotive industry. We are not going to let the American automotive industry disappear. There are a lot of ways in which we've reinvested, in which we've tariffed foreign competitors to ensure that American car workers, American auto workers, and the products they develop are going to be made right here in the United States of America and also available right here in the United States of America. I think it's important for just the American people. I want to make this point. Car manufacturing is one of those skills that when it disappears, it's hard to regain. And when you've got people who can build complex machines, and our great workers in Ohio, Michigan, and elsewhere, they do a very good job. They also, God forbid, in times of national emergency, can be called on to manufacture other complex machinery. So it's very, very important that we protect that native auto industry. The president has done more on this than anybody, but we're certainly going to keep on working at it. You asked about being strung along. Look, you never know until you know, right? What all we can do is negotiate in good faith, try to find a pathway that accomplishes the president's objectives, that accomplishes the national security interests of the American people, and gets this thing in a good place. I think somebody earlier asked this question. I am not certain, and I'm not going to be certain until we sign a deal that we have a deal, but I feel confident enough to keep on doing the work and to try to find a good deal for the American people, and that's what I'm going to do. So the guy with the real purple tie, I will give you the final question, and then I'm going to have to hit the road.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Sorry, this guy and then the very tall guy here. We'll give him the question. Sorry, I can't get to everybody. Marco's right. This really is chaos. This is crazy. You guys got to behave yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The president's financial disclosures were released recently, and they showed a lot of stock trades in companies that he has talked up at events, official events at the White House, on his True Social account, sometimes even putting the stock ticker symbols in his posts and encouraging people to buy their stock. Americans, according to recent polling, are increasingly describing the president as corrupt. And trading stocks...
This is a hell of a question.
Thank you, sir. Trading individual stocks is something that you said that public officials should not be able to do when you ran for Senate all those years ago. And yet the president, who arguably has access to more non-public information than your average senator, is not only buying and selling individual stocks either through his trust.
Okay. What's the question?
The question is, the question, sir, is how can you and your administration argue to Americans that you're cleaning up corruption, you're preventing fraud, you're fighting the sorts of things that harm people and people's financial situations, when the president seems to be talking up stocks that he owns, selling them, and enriching himself?
Okay, so here, let me answer your question here. That was a doozy. Before I answer your question, I want to just observe there are different ways to ask a question. Okay, you could just ask a question and try to get your answer, or you could do like a speech where you say, you know, Mr. Vice President, you're a terrible human being, and so is the president, and so is the entire cabinet. And then I'm like, what's your question? And then your question is, how dare you? come on, man. Have a little bit of objectivity in the way that you ask these questions, because there were a lot of things in that speech masquerading as a question that didn't actually get asked, okay? Number one, the president doesn't sit at the Oval Office on his computer on his like Robinhood account buying and selling stocks. That's absurd. He has independent wealth advisors who manage his money. He is a wealthy person. He has had success in business. He's not making these stock trades himself. And your question imputes that. It doesn't say it exactly, but a reasonable person listening to that question would assume the president is sitting around and doing that. He's not. Second of all, you're right. I am a big fan of banning members of Congress from trading stocks. So is the President of the United States. All of us believe that nobody should be taking proprietary information gained from public service and buying and selling stocks. We want to ban that process. And I think the way to lead by example is banning that process, banning that approach, and making it illegal, which is exactly what the president has proposed doing. Okay. Yes.
Jordan Conradson with Gateway Pundit. I'll try to make this short. There was, you might have seen this, there was a massive United Kingdom rally in London just last weekend. They were protesting mass illegal immigration and the replacement of British culture. What message do you think this should send to globalist European leaders and to leaders here? And also, I wanted to ask about several House members are revamping this push to pass it's called the Dignity Act, but it's really just an amnesty bill giving work visas and allowing millions of illegals to stay in the country. Is that something the White House wants to see stopped in the House?
Well, number one, I don't like giving amnesty to anybody. Number two, since you asked about Great Britain and the United Kingdom rally, one of the great ironies of this job is that for the past couple of years, you see these protests break out all over the country, and sometimes they're fairly well attended, and sometimes they're very poorly attended. Everybody holds these signs saying "No Kings," right? And how many Democratic lawmakers have I seen holding up signs that say "No Kings"? They are very, very insistent that we not have kings. And then King Charles comes to the congressional chamber, and these guys break out in rapturous applause. So maybe they don't care so much about kings as they pretend that they do. Maybe they just don't like the agenda that we're implementing that's actually making American workers and American families safe and prosperous again. But to answer your question about this immigration issue, look, one of the problems that we have in all of Western societies is that we have a lot of people who have decided, Wall Street bankers, corporate lobbyists, and government officials, that what the United States and what the West need is more and more cheap labor. What we believe in this White House is what we need more and more of is high wages for American workers and investing in our own people. What you see all over the West, and it's kind of crazy, is this idea that the way to generate prosperity is to bring in millions and millions of unvetted people and drop them into your neighborhoods, and we simply reject that idea. So to everybody in the UK who rejects that idea, I'd encourage them to just keep on going. It's okay to want to defend your culture. It's okay to want to live in a safe neighborhood. It's okay to want your job to go to yourself and your neighbors and not to a stranger who you don't even know. It is reasonable for the people in Western societies to want to control who comes into their country and who doesn't. A lot of people, frankly, a lot of people in the media have tried to persuade all of those people that it's somehow racist to want to protect your borders, even though very often the very people who are most affected by low-wage immigration are lower-income Black and Hispanic Americans right here in the United States of America, and I guarantee that's true in the UK. So we believe in making America great again. You can't do that unless you protect your borders. I'd encourage our friends in the UK to follow the same path. Thank you all. Good to see you.
All right, that was JD Vance. That was the White House press briefing with JD Vance. I want to take some comments from you guys. What did you think of the White House press briefing with JD Vance? Oops, I have to get the clock off. Hold on a second. Let me turn the clock off and get some comments from you. A reminder, let's see. Reload Your Gun says, fantastic speaker. D. Lulu thinks it was terrible. Darcy Dudach says, well done, JD. Ranville, you lovely for real, says despicable. Fred Flintstone says, great job. Roger Shoemaker says, disaster presser. Undad Feeded says he was perfect. Vance Rubio 2028. Miss Kania says I thought it was Saturday Night Live. Chris N says best VP ever. Slash UK says it was a waste of time. CC says I think he is a good orator. Smiley says dodge the actual questions. Joe Bideno says liberal seething. Amy Celeste says uninspiring. Deb says he has a job to do and not an easy one. By the way, I just want to mention again, we will be doing another stream tonight covering we are going to cover the Thomas Massey primary in Kentucky. Thomas Massey is a Republican House member who President Trump really does not like and has reposted at least 4 different posts on his True Social today telling people to vote against Thomas Massey. So President Trump wants Thomas Massey to lose the Republican primary that is tonight in Kentucky. So we're going to cover that tonight. We will definitely have coverage. The other thing I'm trying to figure out is, I don't have a firm time for it yet. There's supposed to be a news conference at some point on the San Diego shooting. And I'd like to at least show it, but the timing might be weird because I don't have a fixed time. And I really need to eat before, I have to eat before the coverage tonight. It won't work if I don't eat before the coverage tonight. So I don't know if I should, at the end of this stream, kind of leave this stream rolling and just put something on the screen saying, we are waiting for the press conference, because it could be like 4. It could be in 20 minutes. It could be in an hour and a half, right? I don't have I have not seen a firm time yet for this briefing. So I honestly don't know. So I may just I might leave this stream up and then just put on the screen. We will be showing the San Diego press briefing, just for the people who want to watch it. I might do that, but I'm gonna have to eat before the coming back on. What time for the next stream? I'd like to get on around like 5:30 Eastern or something like that. Even 5 Eastern. I'd really like to be on by 5 Eastern. But if I'm going to be on by 5 Eastern, I gotta eat fairly soon. So I might just leave this stream going and then put on the screen that we will be showing the San Diego press briefing. Again, I just don't know when that's going to be. It's not clear to me. I wish I knew. Yeah, AFP has it at 4, whereas Reuters says 3, but nobody has a fixed time. And then on the San Diego police site, it just says time, location, TBD. David Joe Klotz thinks Massey's going to lose tonight. By the way, I do want to thank a couple people. Thanks, Mr. Personality, for your support. Davos World, thanks Davos World for your support. Least Trustworthy Weasel, UKNW and Adapts, thank you. Jose L. Ramirez, Jeff Buddington, and Brasileira Mia, thank you. And Cyrus the Virus. Hold on, I had a couple other thank yous. So I'll take a few more comments about JD Vance as well. Thanks also, Guy from the 207. Jen D thought JD was condescending to the reporters. John Turpin thought that press were despicable, talking and shouting over each other, trying to ask gotcha questions. Shelley Tehanika thought JD did a good job. UKNW Adapts thought JD was a deflecting politician. Davos World says JD doesn't have to worry about putting gas in his vehicles. Yes, if you, oh, I'm sorry. I can put rewind. JG just ended. I know it's a weird headline, but people are wondering, is he speaking right now? Just, you can rewind if you want to watch the briefing. All right, now how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? So I think what I should do is, I don't even have anything to put on the screen. I should have a camera at like 3. So maybe what I'm thinking of doing is maybe, thanks Stephen Briones. I appreciated Stephen Briones. Thank you. So here's maybe what I'll do. What I'll do is maybe I'll put something on the screen that says, we are going to cover coming up soon, press briefing, police briefing about San Diego Islamic Center shooting. And then I don't have a time yet. I think it's going to be 3 or 4 Eastern time, but I don't know for sure. I have not seen a firm time. So what I can do is let me just figure this out. Kind of a weird day. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will... Oh, Marco versus JD poll. Let's do a quick poll. We didn't do a poll yet. Who is more likely to be GOP nominee president, GOP to be 2028 nominee for president? Vance and Rubio. do a quick flash poll. Hang on. Just hang on. All right, I already posted it on YouTube. Now I'm going to post it on Twitch. I gotta eat. This is gonna be a. There's no way I can do a stream tonight for hours without eating something. All right, Twitch. We did Twitch. We did YouTube, and now I got to post it on Facebook. I'm posting the poll right now. Flash poll, quick poll. I said, who is more likely to be the 2028 nominee for president, Rubio or Vance? And then here's you thinking about it. Right there. There's you thinking about it. It's you thinking about it. And now what I'm going to do is put on the screen right now, I'm going to show you the poll results. Here are the poll results of our flash poll. On YouTube, the result right now on YouTube is 57%, 56% Rubio, 43% Vance. On Facebook right now, it's 56% Vance, 44% Rubio. And on Twitch right now, it is 78% Rubio on Twitch. Hey, so again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, well, let me thank a couple people. Oh, hold on. I have the camera from San Diego. Hey guys, I have the camera from San Diego from where they're doing the briefing. So this briefing might start in 15 minutes. Let me change. I'm going to change the title. All right, thanks for voting in our poll. You can see it's pretty, well, on Twitch it's 80% say Rubio. On YouTube, 55% say Rubio. And then on Facebook, it's 61% say Vance on Facebook. How about that? All right, so here's what I got to do. Let me get the video up of the press briefing in San Diego.
Restrooms.
Right, hold on. So this might start soon, it looks like. Might start in like 15 minutes. So let me get the title changed, and let me get this up on the screen for you. All right, that's San Diego, okay? Good, I like it. And I'm going to say soon briefing on shooting at San Diego Islamic. Oops, that didn't work. Oh, what's he saying?
Okay.
Set up there. Best you can. Yeah, it is. Can't do the live stream. It works. We have any of the live view things, but it's like $200 a month.
Yeah, if this is going to be in like 15 minutes, we'll just show it now. I mean, it looks like it's going to be soon. I think it might be in about 10, 15 minutes. Right, hang on a second. I gotta post the title, change the title. So people know.
Luckily, I don't think anyone talking is as bald as me.
Hang on.
Okay.
Give me a moment.
There's no one. I don't think there's anyone talking as bald as me, so don't worry about the light. I've had my head powdered by some of your crews before. It's fine.
I'm going to practice my clean call. Okay. All right. That's just in case we haven't got confirmation. I know.
I'm gonna put Danae. I'll show you where I'll put Danae. We're gonna put her about. Danae. Oh. Did you meet her? You met her yesterday, right? Yeah, I figured her about here.
Yeah, I was blinded by stress trying to get ready. I was driving down from LA. But yeah.
Everybody should have gotten their bathroom breaks in.
I live in West Hollywood. I actually grew up in San Diego, so once I was down the freeway, I kind of made my way around.
Yeah, I had to I could easily take that spot because I knew it was going to be the entire day.
Do y'all have your mic checks and white balance?
So loud.
Y'all good?
Gosh.
Everybody?
And about here is where our sign language interpreter will be standing. Also, if you want to talk about angle width, sign language interpreter will be about right here.
All good. So we're like 10 minutes out, I think. Yeah.
Okay, 10 minutes out. Briefing. 10 minutes. Briefing in 10 minutes. Briefing in 10 minutes. So we'll cover this. Give me one moment, folks.
So if you do, I think you guys call it camel fonting with the first letter capitalized and string. I think you can capitalize the first word, the first letter. It takes you take it off out. I think it all can be lowercase. As a ball like that. So it's all case sensitive. So one version. You all want.
Hang on, I'm just updating like the title of the broadcast and everything for people so they know what we're covering. So just give me a moment here. This is not good. All right, so again, this was not a plan to cover this, but we were wrapping up with the JD Vance stream, and then this happened. This just happened to be happening, so I figured, hey, let's cover this.
Honorable. No, I'm not. I'm going this way. Hi.
FBI's here, fire chief is here, Marty's here.
Oh, thanks, by the way, to Brian Daviau and Alicia Rivera for the Facebook stars. Thank you, Brian and Alicia. Thank you to all of our moderators. We have moderating right now over on YouTube. Roberts May Queen is there. Thanks, Roberts May Queen. And Ruth is moderating. Thank you, Ruth. And over on Twitch, we have Good Luck Duck. I got that fire. Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah, and Surly Dev. Thank you so much. And thanks, Who Shot JR, for your support on Twitch. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha moderate for us on X, and our Facebook moderators. Thank you. As we wait for this briefing to start, we will be covering the Thomas Massie primary election tonight. As soon as this is done, I have to run off and eat and then come back. Kay Lowry Body modding. Hey, thanks, Robert Rial II, for subscribing on Facebook. Shannon Davis Hughes is modding. Thank you. Paul Anderson over on Facebook. Thank you. Thanks on Twitch to some of our subscribers like Andy in Austin, Sarah, Strong One, Maverick in Mexico, Hugh J, Rupert Lionheart, Brand Nubian, My Mind Spray. Some of our YouTube members, thank you to Mike J, Confidence in God, thanks a lot, Gregory Scherer, Evelyn in Maine, Austin Batman, Joseph Say It, Roger Shoemaker, Truth WSYF, thank you, Ann O'Grady, Real OK Barton, Donda, Gregory Scherer, the one and only Austin Batman, thank you, Roger Davis, Stacy TW. By the way, we do have, I would suggest if you want to know when we're coming on for breaking news on this channel, we have our own notification system. It works awesome. It's easy to sign up. It's free. We have our own notifications. You can get sent a notification whenever we go live. If you want to sign up, the mods will post the link to sign up for the notifications in the chat. Also, if you look at the description of this video, you will find the notification sign up there. So again, we're going to watch this press briefing from the police. Then I'm going to take a break. Then we're going to do a stream a little later on the Thomas Massie election, primary election. This looks like it's going to start right around on time.
I can ask her one. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we're all, are you all set up in the end? Are we missing anybody?
But yeah, we should be starting on time here, give or take a minute or two. They're on their way down, so FYI.
Bonus coverage.
Yeah, we're running right on time, so 2 minutes or less. If anybody came in late and didn't get the correct name spelled, we can get it to you guys after. Anybody in these shirts or our sergeant in the back corner over there.
Okay, I'm going to get rid of the clock now because any time and any moment now it's going to start. Thank you so much, Least Trustworthy Weasel. She says, I pray these mass shootings are tragic and I pray for all the victims' families. This was a terrible incident yesterday in which 2 teenagers allegedly killed 3 people outside the Islamic Center of San Diego and then shot at a landscaper a short distance away, about a quarter mile away, and then killed themselves. Yesterday, police said they were investigating it as a hate crime. All right, here we go. Here's the briefing.
Here we go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Let me start by saying we're going to try to cover many of the developments that we've learned over the last 24 hours. We're going to identify victims from yesterday's horrific event. But what I want to really start with, explaining to everybody, particularly in our Muslim community. I know it may not feel this way, but we are one community. You're going to see a visible presence at places of worship throughout our county. Law enforcement is banding together to make sure that there is a feeling of being safe at every place of worship. I talked yesterday about the heroic actions of a security guard at the Islamic Center. I had no idea how heroic those actions were. The individuals that did this heinous act ran past the security guard, most likely not knowing he was there. He immediately observed the threat to everybody at the mosque. He began to engage them with gunfire. Both suspects returned fire. You can see the security guard reach for his radio and put out the lockdown protocol. The security guard then continued to engage in a gun battle with these two suspects. His actions, without a doubt, delayed, distracted, and ultimately deterred these two individuals from gaining access to the greater areas of the mosque where as many as 140 kids were within 15 feet of these suspects. Tragically, he died in that gun battle. The other two victims, as best we can tell with the video surveillance at the mosque, drew the attention of both of these suspects back out into the parking lot area where they were unfortunately unable to flee. And both suspects were able to successfully corner them and kill both of them. While both suspects were outside, the massive response that was seconds away undoubtedly pushed both of the suspects to run back to their vehicle and flee the parking lot. And I want to be very clear, all three of our victims did not die in vain. Without distracting the attention, without delaying the actions of these two individuals, without question, there would have been many more fatalities yesterday. Here with me to tell you a little bit about these three victims is Imam Taha. What you will not hear from us today is the names of these two suspects. Today is about our victims and our community coming back together again. And I have to say, the courage and the strength that Imam Taha has shown in the last 24 hours is beyond inspiring. And so with that, let me bring up Imam Taha to talk about our three victims.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Wall. Excuse me if I get a little bit emotional. We call them our brothers in the community. We call them our martyrs and our heroes. Our security guard, Amin Abdullah, he goes by Amin Abdullah. Brian Climax, such a lovely person. He never stopped smiling to anyone, to our community members, as well as our visitors. If it was not for him, as Chief mentioned, the carnage would be much worse. He's the one who stopped them, who slowed them down. If he didn't do what he did, and he sacrificed his life, the two suspects would have easily access to every single classroom. We're so proud of him. I envy him when I see messages about him literally from all over the world talking about his heroism. This is our brother. Second one, Mansour Kaziha, our elder. He goes by Abu al-Izz. He is the pillar of the Islamic Center of San Diego. He has been since 1986, when the community started breaking the ground to build the Islamic Center. He was there. He has been at the Islamic Center for the last 40 years, working non-stop. In the last 22 years, being the Imam and Director of the Islamic Center of San Diego, I have never done anything without him. He is on the top of my list for people to call. Every single thing going wrong. Even the light, is not working. Brother Abu al-Izz, can you come and fix it? Anything that goes wrong, he was the handyman, he was the cook, he was the caretaker, he was the storekeeper. He was everything. I don't know what I'm going to do at the Islamic Center without his assistance, his daily assistance. We miss him. The entire community miss him. Our third brother, Nadir Awad, our neighbor. He lives across the street from the Islamic Center. His wife is a teacher at the Islamic school. He is every single day at the Islamic Center joining the prayers, every single day. When he heard the shooting, he rushed to do something, to protect. And he joined Mansour Kaziha. They died together. Mansour Kaziha was the first one who called 911 right before he was killed. And both of them, they tried to do something. They were hiding in the parking lot next to the kitchen. They tried to do something to protect. But unfortunately, they sacrificed their lives to protect the entire community inside the Islamic Center of San Diego. I was there. I was upstairs. And I heard everything. I was hiding until the law enforcement came and escorted us outside the building. We have never, ever expected such thing to happen at the Islamic Center of San Diego. I mean, we are used to receiving hate mails, hate messages, people driving by and cursing and all that stuff. But such horrible crime, we have never expected this. Even though we tried throughout the years everything we could do, applying for Homeland Security grants. We have a fence, security armed guards, security cameras covering every single spot inside and outside the Islamic Center. What could we do more than this? So this is what my community is going through at this time. My community is mourning. My community is keeping our three heroes in their prayers. My community is around the three families, trying to show support and sympathy. So this is what happened at the Islamic Center, and these are our 3 heroes. Please keep them in your prayers. Thank you.
Let me say that the collaborative response and approach to yesterday's event has been overwhelming. I know that we've had support from the U.S. Attorney's Office, from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, from the San Diego County District Attorney's Office, from every law enforcement agency here in San Diego County. Investigators have been working through the night. And here to talk about some of the details and things that we've developed over the last 24 hours is the Special Agent in charge of the FBI here in San Diego, Mark Remley.
Thank you all for coming. My name is Mark Remley. I am the Special Agent in charge of the FBI's San Diego Field Office. First, I want to reiterate our deepest condolences to the victims and their families for the horrific incident they suffered yesterday. Violence for any reason will never be the answer. The victims who lost their lives yesterday were there to help others be part of a community that came together in peace. Instead, they were confronted by teenagers who appear to have been radicalized online to believe that they didn't belong because of how they looked or where they worshiped. They couldn't be more wrong. The FBI takes very seriously any violence, and we refuse to give these subjects a platform to try to inflict their hateful beliefs onto others. We will not stand idly by and give their hate any credibility. We are thoroughly investigating this case to learn everything we can and will not stop until we get to the bottom of what happened and why. But we also want to learn how this happened and what we can do to stop future acts of violence. FBI personnel are working diligently on this case to uncover everything we can about the subjects. I want to thank all the employees of the FBI San Diego Field Office and the U.S. Attorney's Office who worked tirelessly throughout the night. Our SWAT team, our evidence response team, special agents, intelligence analysts, professional staff worked side by side with our San Diego Police Department to collect every piece of evidence and review every piece of information we have so far. Here's what I can share with you that we know at this time about the case. In coordination with the San Diego Police Department, we're currently conducting extensive interviews with the subject's family and friends. We've executed 3 search warrants at residences associated with the subjects. During those searches, we found and seized numerous firearms from 2 of those locations, including numerous pistols, rifles, shotguns, ammunition, tactical gear, as well as electronics. So far in this investigation, we've seized over 30 guns and a crossbow. We're continuing to process the information from all the locations, and we will provide more information when we're able to do so. We've also executed search warrants on the electronic devices the subjects had with them at the time of the incident, and we're in the process of obtaining additional search warrants for additional devices. In the vehicle they used, we also identified writings and various ideologies outlining religious and racial beliefs of how the world they envisioned should look. These subjects did not discriminate on who they hated. And let me be very clear, to anyone that thinks that they can end the world through violence, they are sorely mistaken. The FBI, our law enforcement partners in our community are much stronger than you think, and we will always serve on the right of good. I want to thank all of our law enforcement partners who responded to yesterday's shooting without hesitation. Truly, the quick work of the San Diego Police Department in tracking down the subject's vehicle and their instincts in intercepting the subjects helped keep a horrific situation from being far worse. We are grateful to all of our partners. We couldn't do it without them. We'll continue to work closely with all of our partners through this investigation until we get all the answers we all deserve. Again, we also want to thank the public for their patience, and we ask you to continue submitting information by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or submitting any photos, digital evidence, or images you may have to fbi.gov/Islamic Center of San Diego shooting. Lastly, our victim specialists are available and we're getting reinforcements from headquarters today to assist anyone in this community that was impacted by the shooting. This is in addition to the resources the San Diego Police Department and the District Attorney's Office are already making available. For that, I'll turn it over to the Chief.
At the forefront of today's message and our collective direction moving forward is to bring this community back together again. And here, as the mayor and as a person that deeply cares about what is happening here in this city, Mayor Todd Gloria.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you all for being here. Imam Taha, thank you so much for sharing your testimony and your witness and letting your fellow San Diegans know more about these three extraordinary men who, as you just heard, sacrificed their own lives in order to protect the children that were at that school and many others who could have otherwise been harmed by these two shooters. I want to be very clear that those two young men do not represent our city. These three Muslim men do. Their heroism, their selflessness represents the very best of this city. And Imam, you've said that your community is mourning, and I'm here to say very specifically, our entire city is mourning. And we will mourn these three heroes for what they are, heroes. And we will remember their sacrifice always. I want to express my appreciation to our public safety professionals. Chief Wall, you and your department have done an exceptional job. And I want the people of this city to know that we are protected by the very best. We fund them, we train them, and we equip them to do their jobs. And you saw yesterday, they did their jobs, and they did it exceptionally well. Under Chief Wall's leadership, with the partnership of Sheriff Martinez and our District Attorney Stephan, as well as our partners at the state and federal level, what you see is a level of collaboration that you don't see anywhere else in this country. And that collaboration is what makes us one of the safest big cities in America. My hat's off to every officer who responded to that incident yesterday. I thank you for what you do. I have the utmost respect for what you do, and I thank you on behalf of all the residents of our city. Lastly, I would like to say to my fellow San Diegans, this is a time for us to come together. This pain is unimaginable. And for many of our community, specifically our Muslim brothers and sisters, they need our care, our comfort, our concern, and our support. And I, for one, am here to make sure that they receive it. Charitable funds have been established through the Islamic Center of San Diego to help support the families of these three men. There'll be other ways to support them and to show your support in the coming days. And I ask folks to take advantage of those opportunities to show what we are, which is America's finest city, a place on the U.S.-Mexican border, along the Pacific Rim, a place of extreme diversity. And all of us know that we're made better because of that diversity. Now is a time not to divide ourselves, as the two murderers yesterday are attempting to do, but instead to come together as one San Diego, and now more than ever, to express our solidarity with our Muslim brothers and sisters in this time of great need. I know that we will do this because we've done it before. We will do it again. And lastly, again, in memory of the three men that were lost yesterday, they represent the very best of the city. Let them always be remembered as the heroes that they are. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open up to some questions.
Just to be clear on the timeline, you talked about it in great detail, all the heroic actions of all three of these men. We know that the shooters did make it in the front entrance of the center, but they didn't go further than that. Did they leave the center because the guard had slowed them down and got the building on lockdown, and so they couldn't get any further?
Thank you, Trevor. So the question for everybody is, what depth into the facility, into the mosque, did the shooters actually go? What we've learned after reviewing extensive video from yesterday's events, when they engaged the security guard outside, they began to make entry into the front lobby. While they were engaging in a gun battle with the security guard, ultimately, the security guard was wounded and then killed outside of the mosque. They went back inside. Again, understand that the security guard had put out a lockdown protocol. The sound of the gunfire, all of the delay in that gun battle allowed everybody to get out of the main common areas of the mosque and into areas of hiding So when they began to go through areas of the mosque, they were not running into more victims. As they began to move from room to room, some of the video surveillance shows that they're going into areas where thankfully nobody was at. Ultimately, you can see them look out a window. It's unclear as to whether they could see clearly through that window or not, but you can see one of them point to the window, and then they run out of a door right next to that window and immediately engage the two remaining victims outside in the parking lot. And I think that is a significant point for everybody to understand, is when they drew, obviously inadvertently, drew the attention of those gunmen out of the door and out into the parking lot where they subsequently died. What was coming seconds away was hundreds of police officers that everybody that was there yesterday could see. They immediately ran to their vehicle and fled the scene at that point. And I truly believe that that's what saved the 140 kids that were just inside.
Chief,
critical time. Yes, ma'am.
How did these teenagers get access to so many different types of weapons, and do you have any details to share about the weapons that they used in yesterday's crimes?
I can tell you at this point that the guns were not registered to these individuals and belonged to the parents of one of the individuals. And exactly how they came into, they were able to obtain them is still under investigation. Yes, ma'am.
Given the fact that the weapons did come from one of the parents, will you be recommending charges against the parent in this case, or can you share an update on where you're at in that determination?
We're still looking into it. Still, we're 24 hours out. We're still looking into it completely.
Could I ask you, I know you've read the writings. I know you're limited in what you can tell us. We were told before it was hatred towards everyone. Can you give us an idea of maybe a bit more of what the writings contained? And also, do you believe that the students in these two schools were the specific targets? Is that who these gunmen wanted to kill?
Repeat the last part of that question.
They ended up at this Islamic Center, which has the two schools. Were the students their main target, you feel? Did they want to kill students?
So we're still trying to gather a bigger picture as to exactly what the intended target location was. I'm going to bring Mark back up here to talk a little bit more about maybe what some of that rhetoric was. But we're still looking into exactly what that scope of threats, that threat picture was.
Yeah, thank you for your question. So I can confirm there has been a manifesto that's been recovered. I would reiterate it's early on in the investigation. We are dedicating every resource the FBI has to conduct a thorough analysis of that manifesto to try to learn what led to this, but I think also more importantly, how can we stop future attacks? So I know there's a lot of questions related to this on the community. What I would just continue to reiterate is they didn't discriminate on who they hated. It covered a wide aspect of races and religions.
More than just the Islamic people in that church.
Correct.
No.
Correct.
But Special Agent, they nevertheless, in a city that's majority white, specifically picked out a site where they knew there would be immigrants, where they knew there would be Muslims. That doesn't seem to suggest respectfully that they hated everybody equally.
I would say we're still too early in the investigation to say that the Islamic Center of San Diego was the specific target. We are assessing and analyzing all the evidence. Again, it's very early. We're still looking through electronics to give us the answers. But again, what I can say is they definitely had a broad hatred towards a lot of folks.
What did you
Are
learn
you
from their
aware of
social
the suspects live streaming the attack or their own death?
I'm aware of that information, and again, not a lot I can share at this point because we're actively going through those electronics. We just recently got search warrants in place, so we're digging into that as aggressively and as quickly as we can.
To the extent that you're able, can you characterize their deaths?
I can't really. I apologize. Yeah.
You mentioned that they were radicalized online. Can you talk more about that? Is that going through their computers, their laptops, their phones? What can you tell us about that?
We're still going through, again, all that information, but what we do believe is that they met online. And through the course of that online communication, they discovered that they were both residing in the San Diego area, and they became acquaintances or associates and had in-person contact at that point. But in terms of how the radicalization occurred, we're still digging into all that.
I know that you got a call yesterday from one of the suspects' mothers. Have you been in touch? How much have you been in touch with the other suspect's family?
I want to be sensitive with what I share at this point. We are getting a lot of information from a lot of people, and so it's an ongoing. I know the community has a lot of questions, and we want to share and be as transparent as we can, but understanding we also have to be sensitive to the investigation and the victims and the witnesses we're talking with. So when the time is right, we'll absolutely share as much as we can.
Are you able to confirm which mother called the 17-year-olds or the 18-year-olds?
Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, we can. So the younger suspect's mom is the one that called.
If I could I ask the imam a question?
Yes, please.
You talked about how the Islamic Center became far too familiar with receiving hate, and how you've taken all of these steps to protect the building, including hiring me. The first question would be, how many years ago had you hired them?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was hired sometime in 2019, 2020.
Quite some time.
Yeah.
It's also very clear by the actions that he took, immediately getting things on lockdown, that this was something that he and the center had planned for. Is this something that you had talked to him about?
Yeah. We do a drill, test every time, especially with the school. Multiple times every school year. So he knew about the system of notifying the teachers in their classrooms in case of an active shooter, and he just implemented what he knows about the system. So, yeah.
Surely when you're going through all those drills, though, you're not necessarily thinking it could be real.
Of course. As I talked to some of the teachers yesterday, they told me, our experience today, which means yesterday, was totally different than the drills that we have done before. So it's different.
That sounds like a means of
But it worked, the lives of the kids were saved. The life of everyone in the school were saved. And we are so grateful for that.
And how are the victims' families doing today?
They are at shock. This morning they started showing up to pick up some stuff of their kids, and even also the teachers. Some of the teachers showed up to pick up some stuff from their classrooms. So the Islamic school canceled school the rest of this week and next week, because next week is a great Muslim holiday, Eid al-Adha, the day of sacrifice. So for these, let's say 2 weeks, there is no school. So many families came to pick up their stuff that they left in the classroom. Yeah, but they are devastated. Everyone stepped in tears.
Question for the chief, please. You were contacted, if I understand, at least 2 hours before the shooting, right? And you knew who the suspects were. You knew that they were carrying phones. I guess I'm trying to understand, with all the technology, all the cameras, cell phone technology, why weren't they found and stopped before this happened?
Well, let me clarify just a little bit of that. So we did not have a complete understanding of any type of connection between Suspect 1 and Suspect 2. We had the parent of Suspect 1 calling, and as she's beginning to understand the circumstances surrounding her son's situation, and as she's beginning to provide that information to us, the details and information began to broaden our threat assessment and our understanding of what we were dealing with. And it went from a runaway suicidal individual to potentially homicidal, 2 suspects. Yes, we were utilizing technology to try to get out in front of them, but this is all happening in real time. And we did utilize technology to try and do that, but you have to have certain cell phone information to be able to get the things we need to be able to go up on those cell phones, and some of that takes a little bit of time. But technology was utilized from the very beginning to try to get out in front of these guys. Yes, sir.
So,
I've been to the center, and that usually doesn't open until about noon for the noon prayers. It seems like the suspect, one of them, lives in the neighborhood, so it seems like they actually knew what's going on. So it seems like the center was targeted at noon because of that. And second question is, for something like this magnitude, usually the search warrant didn't take as long as it did. So why was the search warrant took so long? I mean, we knew that the search warrant wasn't executed until late last night.
So the first part of your question, we're still completely under investigation. We're 24 hours outside of the onset of this incident. In searching through all of their social media, their phones, their computers to try to figure out what their plans were in totality is happening in real time as well. So more information will come in the days ahead. I think when we watch TV shows on how this stuff transpires, it's not that simple. A lot of information, very few facts. What goes into a search warrant has to be credible, verified information, making sure that we're filtering through rumors or assumptions or unknowns and getting to facts in the search warrant. So what we're presenting in front of a judge is going to be enough to get that approved. It takes time. And there was a lot of information, a lot of things coming together in real time in yesterday's event. And so I'm going to say once we realize that we had no active threat, we can slow things down and do it right moving forward. Yes, ma'am.
You didn't say much specifically about the live stream, but did you learn anything specific in any social media posts that gave you an indication about their ideologies?
All of that's going to be continuing to develop as we further this investigation. Yes, sir.
Can you comment on how unique this situation is, Muslim on Muslim crime? Have you ever had any suspicions of something like this happening, or I haven't heard of it? We've covered.
Explain. Tell me more. What? I don't understand your question.
Yeah, I mean, it's two young kids who are Muslim. Yes.
I have no understanding of what their religious beliefs are. No, I don't. I'm not sure.
Do we know who are these kids' religious origin is?
At this point, it is unclear.
So the mother that called is not Muslim either?
I have no information as to the faith or belief pattern of our suspects in this case or their family members. But again, that part of the investigation is still underway. Yes, ma'am.
We heard from several community members that they had long-standing concerns about threats to the security at the mosque. And I want to know if there were any threats or incidents in recent weeks and what you can tell us about that situation.
Specifically, none that I'm aware of. Obviously, in today's world, we take the protection of all of our religious facilities, all of our mass gathering locations, all of the vulnerabilities that come with a free society very seriously. We have to navigate a very narrow path of following our Constitution. I think one of the important takeaways from this moment is this didn't just happen overnight. It is important for people that want to feel that they can do something to reiterate the importance of, if you see something, if you know something, then please come forward and say something. We have tips and lead lines that you can remain totally anonymous. I think there is that can't be overstated.
We're going to do one more question, guys. To your point about learning from this, now that you've undergone many of these interviews, were there any red flags that you can speak to now, whether it's from the suspects' families or the schools? For example, we know one of the suspects was taking classes online rather than in person now. Was that the result of disciplinary action, behavioral concerns, anything that you can share at this point about red flags for people to learn from?
So I'm going to go back to this is still under investigation, and I think more clarity as to what led up to this will make more sense in the future. Some of these things we don't want to rush to. I don't want to get out in front of until we can absolutely verify. I don't want to make assumptions because then we're not putting out credible information to everybody. So listen, we'll provide more updates ahead, and we'll get you information as it comes out and comes available. We appreciate everybody's support in covering this story, and I'll end with prayers for the families of the victims and the families in the Muslim community. Thank you, everybody.
All right. That was the press briefing, and I want to mention a couple things here. I am seeing some news coming out about this now. First of all, just a warning, we were doing another stream before this, the JD Vance press briefing stream. We stayed on extra time to cover that briefing. I need to very soon take a break. So, there are the three. There is the in the middle, the security guard, and then the two other victims from the shooting yesterday. So, and remember, the police said that the security guard actually got in a gun battle with the shooters, and the security guard ended up radioing, calling for the lockdown protocol, and they credited the security guard with delaying and distracting the shooters, and they also credited the two victims for distracting the shooters as well. So if you missed it, you can go back and watch the press conference. So I have a couple of minutes here. We're going to talk for a couple of minutes. Then I'm going to have to take a break because we're going to come back on in a little later and cover the Thomas Massey primary. But what I want to share with you is this. So in the press briefing, this was news to me, maybe not to some of you. It was brought up that possibly the shooters live streamed the attack, okay? The New York Post has a story now where they say the shooters did live stream the attack. I will post the link to the New York Post story in the chat. They have screenshots in the New York Post article. They say the footage is circulating online. And one of the things that the Post says is that in the video of the live stream shows that one attacker shot the other one and then killed himself. The New York Post shows the video shows that what appears to be Clark sitting in the driver's seat with a pistol. He reaches over and shoots his accomplice in the head, reloads, shoots him again before putting the gun under his own chin and pulling the trigger. Now, I will say yesterday it's something we talked about a little bit on the stream, wondering whether something like this might have happened. But police had said that that they were both killed with self-inflicted gunshot wounds, which I was taking at face value. Although, one could argue that self-inflicted by the group. Anyways, this was not the story that we were understanding yesterday was that they both killed themselves. But the New York Post says the video shows that one of them shoots the other twice before shooting and killing himself. As to if that's true, whether the second person knew he was going to be shot and killed, I have no idea. But again, the New York Post article has still shots from this live stream. I have not seen this footage. They posted their article less than an hour ago, so while we were on the air. Some of you maybe have seen it. I have not seen it. But they are saying that this was a live streamed attack. Also, we heard in the press conference there was a manifesto found. I have not seen the manifesto myself. The FBI said they found a manifesto. They said that the attackers did make it into the building and did search several rooms, but they were not able to find anybody. They credited the fact that the security guard had put out the lockdown protocol and people had heard shooting and said people went into hiding. So it was very fortunate that those shooters did not find people there. And again, the police said that if that security guard did not stop, distract, and have this gun battle with the shooters, without that delay and distraction, they think this could have been way worse, which is certainly understandable. So again, condolences to the security guard and those two other victims, their families. It's certainly the security guard gave his life protecting that Islamic Center, and they credited the 2 other people with distracting. It wasn't exactly clear how that all played out, and I would have to rewatch again to listen to the explanation. You can rewatch it again, but they did credit the 2 other people who lost their lives with distracting the shooters as well. So yeah, just a terrible incident, and again, more is coming out about it. So I'm going to take a couple comments real quick. I'm sorry. I really need to wrap up the stream shortly because I need to take a break and eat something because we're coming back on to do the Thomas Massey live stream about the Thomas Massey primary. So I want to be able to get back on for that. And our viewer, Allie B from Tennessee, says, so sorry to the victims. K-Teb says, I didn't watch it for more than a second. It's horrifying. So I guess K-Teb maybe saw the footage. Then also, yeah, there's a picture. I saw some posting online claiming that there was possibly a Nazi symbol on the shooter's chest or something. I haven't... I haven't been able to get into all the details of that. I just saw this information about this live stream, purported live stream of this attack while this press briefing was going on. So, so again, if you want to, you can rewind and watch the press briefing. The New York Post has the article talking about this live stream. I'm assuming, and it says it's floating around the web, so I'm assuming it's out there. I have not had a chance to get up to date on all this stuff. But, you know, I leave it to you if you want to pursue more information about that in the coming hours. It's possible we'll do another stream on this topic in the future. Rid K thinks it has a lot of the same hallmarks of Christchurch. It was said by the authorities in the press briefing that there was a manifesto that was found, and it had a lot of hate for a lot of types of people, and not just one group of people. Had a lot of generalized hate. Also, I believe it was said that the shooters met online. By the way, law enforcement has recovered over 30 guns, as well as I believe they said something like a crossbow and tactical gear from sites that they searched in relation to this attack. Okay, by the way, thank you to Joseph. I owe Joseph Say I2HT a thank you from before, and least trustworthy weasel, and also I owe a thank you to I just want to thank our mods again. Our viewer K-Teb oh no, that was a different video. I think K-Teb's talking about the Charlie video. ZK says, I've seen the footage, it's graphic. Yeah, so again, I have not seen it yet, but I assume I will at some point, although I assume it's very graphic. Thank you, by the way, to our moderators who have been here. I know Ruth and Roberts Mayqueen and Leslie Ladyhawk and I believe Beth Mythical and others over on YouTube and on Twitch. Matthew Kohai, 3 Sarah, all of our moderators there, Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X, and on Facebook, people like Andrea Holder, Kay Lowry Body, Shannon Davis Hughes, Paul Anderson. All right. Again, I do apologize for not staying on the air a bit longer on this, but again, I need to take a break so I can get back on the air. And perhaps, you know, we may do a stream about the San Diego thing in the future, depending on what news comes out. So I am going to wrap up this live stream now. We will be back in a little bit tonight, in a couple hours. Hopefully, as soon as I can get back on, basically. But by a couple hours from now, we'll be back on to cover the Thomas Massey election primary results. So that is it for now. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon in a little bit with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.